In order, everyone please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ashley, can I have roll call, please?
Cavalier. Brecken. Plot. Alt. Hidma. Shastel. Fisher. Briggs.
Okay, it's time for the open forum. If anyone would like to address the council on any issue not already on tonight's agenda, may come to the podium, state your first, last name and address, please. Hearing nothing from chambers. Anybody on the phone bridge, please?
Nobody on the phone bridge, Your Honor.
Thank you. He's logged off. Yep. Okay, we have one presentation. Tonight is regarding an update on a collation of greater Minnesota cities, and I think Marty is zooming in. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Your Honor, and members of the council. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Very good. Okay. I sent Ashley some materials. Hopefully you have those in your packet, and I'm going to be referring to the one that looks like this that's got a outcomes chart. It talks about the it says 2025 legislative session. We've got a variety of things that we worked on this last session that I'll just talk about a little bit. Local government aid was in jeopardy in the Senate tax bill. They had a reduction of $20 and $10 million that they were pushing for. It was one area where we got agreement from Democrats and Republicans together who are tied in the House, 67-67. They agreed both on the House and Senate side to not have the cut to LGA, so our protection was in place there. There was no cuts to LGA, which obviously in your situation and other cities in rural Minnesota is a big part of your budget. A couple other things we worked on, adding inflation and population. They did not pass that. They like zero-based budgeting in the legislature, and I understand the thought process behind that. So that was not successful. The moratorium on the sales tax did expire. So for those cities seeking a sales tax, local option sales tax, they will be able to pursue that in the next legislative session. If you want to scroll up just a little bit, under housing and economic development, childcare, we did have a little bit of money in bonding for BDPI. That was.
Well, no, it's just on our end as far as the TV. Just 1 second.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Sorry. For whatever reason, full screen on our TV here. Sometimes it glitches out, and we're back up now. We didn't lose connection on the video or on the call with you.
No problem at all. Continuing in that area, we did have a pretty major bill, which was the one size fits all for zoning, taking away the ability for planning and zoning commissions and city councils essentially to have any say over shoving multiplexes into single family neighborhoods. As all of you know, the coalition is very large on local control of zoning. That is, since the history of our state started, we have had local control of zoning on where you believe housing fits the best for your particular community. We had 60 groups that were against us, everybody from unions to builders to religious groups to the Star Tribune to you name it. And us and the League of Cities were able to beat that bill back, and we appreciate all the help we got from our local units of government contacting your lawmakers on that particular issue. Of course, your state representative was the mayor, so he kind of understands this, I guess, and doesn't need a whole lot of enlightenment like some of the other legislators that don't have experience like you do. We didn't have a lot of success for some of the other child care issues, mainly for lack of money. So if you want to scroll to the next section real quickly, water and wastewater was one of our successful areas. We did have a bonding bill this last year. We were able to get enormous amount of money in the wastewater programs and clean water programs that benefit cities. Probably the biggest impact for our rural cities is we were able to increase the PSIG grant and the WIF grant caps to 12 million and 10 million. They were previously 7 million. So when some of our communities max out at those dollar amounts, all of those differences of how much money that you need for your wastewater infrastructure improvements has to go either on your utility users or your property taxes or both. And so that was a big victory that we lobbied on. That was something that was kind of a CGMC initiative that we pushed very, very heavily for. We did get 18 million for an emerging contaminants program. Some of you have heard of this PFAS issue that's in all of our bloodstreams and the water and so forth, and that's to kind of get a handle on starting to see if we can get that out of our waste streams. The lead service line replacement, we wanted a big dollar amount for that. We only got 3 million, but there was 100 million put in last year or the year before for that biennium. So, that was a large amount that got carried over. And we're just going to continue on with that particular program. The next piece is on transportation. Corridors of commerce, our job was to keep that intact. We did get a $5 million cut for the 28-29 biennium only, or fiscal year only. And the reason for that is the governor wanted to pay for a new highway patrol headquarters as $100 million. And so they were scratching money out of every little piece of the pie that they could find. And one of the items was this $5 million cut in the Corridor of Commerce program. That's your major thoroughfares like Highway 71, Highway 59, Highway 2 that connects a lot of our regional centers. We were not in favor of dinging that program. We're obviously in favor of the highway patrol, but we believe that trunk highway dollars belong in the trunk highway system and not in paying for buildings and so forth. Local bridge program got $20 million. The local road improvement program got $42 million. There were some minor language changes on the mandates that passed last year as part of the greenhouse gas transportation bill that they passed. And then we did get increased revenue from electric vehicles. I think all of you know there are more and more electric vehicles getting pushed into the system. The government and others are kind of saying, hey, we want more people to use electric cars. But the fees that they were paying were not commensurate with the amount of usage they get as compared to gas-powered vehicles. And so we do have some additional revenue from those electric car owners. The next item on emergency medical services, we did get a program created with some one-time funding. Last year's funding was 20 to 30 million. This year's was 16 million. And essentially that goes all to rural Minnesota EMS systems, whether they're city-owned, county-owned, or owned by the hospital systems themselves. If they are losing money or bleeding money, it's to try to make them whole. And that's both on the capital side and on the personnel side. If you dial 911 anywhere in the state, we want you to be able to get picked up off the side of the road. And we have a lot of our smaller rural systems that don't have the economy of scale that the metro has. So all of the money last year, and we expect almost all of the money this year, will be going to the rural area, the 80 non-metro counties. The next page, which is on the flip side of this, talks a little bit about our staff contacts and people that you can use as resources in our office. We do have our conference coming up that is going to be held in Grand Rapids. We do know there are, I believe, a couple folks who are signed up, at least from the Crookston area, so we are very grateful for your participation in that. So I don't want to take a lot of your time. I know you have a busy agenda, so I can stand for any questions that you might have.
Any questions, anybody?
Just so I'm understanding this, so nothing was for the childcare? Nothing was passed on that?
Yeah, very, very little was done in the area of childcare. We had some grants that were put into last year's bill And essentially that carried forward to this year, and we had so much demand for the program. I think there were 70 childcare facilities throughout the state that applied. So the legislature just has to put more money into that program. It's just pure and simple. It's not enough for what we need to be doing. The secondary part of that, of course, is there's regulatory problems with the Department of Health and others mandating a lot of expensive things that other states don't have. And it's driving a lot of our child care centers and our in-home centers out of business because they essentially don't want to be bureaucrats filling out paperwork and licensing and all the various things they're making these poor people do. Their job is to take care of kids, not fill out reports and forms and buy all sorts of stuff. So we're trying to battle two fronts. One is funding and one is the unfunded mandates and requirements that the government keeps pushing on these providers.
Are they ever gonna get that fixed? I mean, this has been going on for years as far as the mandates for childcare and all the red tape involved.
They passed a bill that relieved some items that were required, like photo ID of the owners and things like that, which is very minimal stuff. I mean, we have to get to the nuts and bolts of what is South Dakota and Iowa, what are these other states doing? You know, we don't see kids piled up in these other states, so they have to be doing something right where they have more child care availability than we do per capita. We are really in a world of hurt. And I mean, just in my community, just to give you an example, in Lyon County, down in the Marshall area, we're losing 3 providers this year that are not going to be replaced. So we're facing the same critical issues. And they need to engage the providers with this. They keep setting up, they put task forces together with lawmakers and agency people. They need to have the actual providers on these task forces saying, here's the problem and here's how you solve it.
Is there a reasoning that they give for?
Well, it's all in the name of safety. You know, we need to do this, that, and the other because of safety. But as all of you know, if you require higher fences or you require more green space or you require more reports or whatever, that all costs money and it has to get passed on to someone, and that's the provider. And a lot of them aren't making a lot of money to start with. So it's very frustrating for them because they're trying to stretch their dollars. I think, you know, some of you maybe have heard that Warren to the north of you did a local option sales tax, and you know, their center I think has room for a few more kids, but they're attracting families from, you know, 40, 50 miles away because it's so difficult to find childcare.
Earlier you mentioned zero-based budget. Can you define that, please?
Yeah, you know, zero-based budgeting is the legislature wants to take a look at every program and not give it automatic inflationary increases. So they have to ask the question, is this program necessary? Is it performing the intent of the legislature? And so they're very hesitant, at least this year, to put any programs on automatic pilot where they grow each year without the legislature analyzing and authorizing that additional appropriation. So, for example, LGA, we had a bill to give LGA an automatic increase of, you know, 2, 3, whatever, 4%, whatever inflation happens to be, to keep up with the pace of inflation, because our logic is that local units of government have additional pressure of employee salaries, benefits, higher gas costs, whatever it is, and you have to keep up with that. But the legislature said, no, we're not going to put it on automatic pilot to grow. If it needs an increase, we're going to authorize an increase. So that's kind of what they're looking at.
Thank you.
Further questions? All right, well, thank you for your time, Marty.
Thank you very much. You have a good meeting.
You too. Okay, moving on, brings us to the agenda. Does anyone wish to add or remove anything from tonight's agenda? I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
Ed Henry and Morgan, thank you. Discussion, hearing none, roll call, please.
Cavalier.
Aye.
Brecken.
Aye.
Clot.
Aye.
Alt.
Aye.
Hima.
Aye.
Shastel.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Briggs.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. This brings us to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
I'll make that motion, Your Honor.
Thank you, Clayton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Wendy. Roll call, please.
Cavalier.
Aye.
Brecken.
Aye.
Lot.
Aye.
Alt.
Aye.
Hima.
Aye.
Shastel.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Briggs.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. No public hearings. Regular agenda. Ashley, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Item 8.01 is a resolution regarding approval to submit a small cities development grant, SCDG grant for $600,000 to assist the city's portion of the main water replacement associated with the Highway 2 corridor improvement project, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
Move, Your Honor.
Thank you. Don, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank by Clayton. Thank you. Discussion.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the city of Crookston was not awarded any funds, the trunk cash to relocate and replace water mains as part of the Highway 2 corridor reconstruct project. That's coming up in 2027. So if we're awarded the Small Cities Development Grant, it would provide $600,000 of funding to assist the city of Crookston with their portion of costs in relocating and replacing the existing water main associated with the Highway 2 reconstruct project. And there is no local funding match for this grant.
Thank you. Further discussion?
So who actually does the writing for that? Does that come out of the Cheetah Board or
So,
Mitch's office? Or-
It would be.
Northwest, what's it, sorry?
Yep, go ahead.
Northwest Community Action, John Wynn is actually writing the grant. AE2S is also helping with that as far as providing any documentation or study requirements for the grant.
If we could, Your Honor, John Wynn is here if there's any questions for that. He'll be our grant writer for that.
Thank you. Further questions? Hearing none, can I roll call, please?
Cavalier.
Aye.
Brecken.
Aye.
Lot.
Aye.
Alt.
Aye.
Hima.
Aye.
Shastel.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Briggs.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Item 8.02 is the second and final reading of an ordinance amending the City of Crookston zoning ordinance, Chapter 152.65.B and Chapter 152.65.E, allowing slaughterhouses in the heavy industrial zone I-1, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So it's already been first and
Yep.
seconded.
Sorry.
We just need discussion and then roll call, Your Honor.
Right, discussion. Opening up.
So I just have a few questions on it. Maybe Brent might be the best one to answer these for me. So I had just called around to a couple of, and went and visited different locations. How often is the rendering truck come?
Once a week.
Once a week?
Brent, can you come up here, please?
So they would come once a week,
Okay.
but nothing is stored outside.
No, I get that. I just visited with a lot of them and they were, a lot of places or locations around it had said that there typically is no smell until the rendering truck comes. So I just wanted to be like, is it coming every day?
Oh, they would come early in the morning
Okay,
to make their route, because they've got to come all the way from Staples,
okay,
so they'd come early. They don't do anything late, they usually run at night,
okay.
because they don't want to deal with traffic.
Fair. Okay, because that was, that one, I would say it was probably, I know, a big concern. Just a lot of places around the state I had talked to said that's really the only smell that most people ever experience. And then I think I had addressed this, but I just know like the water and all of that, that has been addressed.
Yes, that has, we have spoken to Brent about the wastewater and water usage, as it will likely be more than he's using now. Even when the prior Public Works Director was here, Brandon coordinated and met with Brent. It would be all within tolerant use of anything that we'd be concerned of. And at this point, there's no concern from the city on water use or restriction.
And then you plan on being USDA approved and that you can put that in there, that it would be a requirement.
Well, some will be, some won't. You can't have it both ways because my retail store is different than, so that's state certified. So there's actually 4 different ways to do it. USDA is just gonna be on the bigger, like doing your cows that you wanna market in Arizona. So you can take them and do whatever you want with them. Because once they're USDA certified, they go all the way through and they're yours to sell. So the local farmers can do whatever they want with them. They'll be their animals.
I'm just saying from like the different meetings that I've been at, and you were saying that you yourself would be making sure that it's USDA.
Well, we're going to be,
Okay,
but there's more. We can't just say that it's just gonna be USDA. There's more to it than that. Because I'm state certified too.
Yep.
And I'm retail, and I'm certified wild game.
I'm not saying just, but that, I guess we could say that has to be part of it, not just.
I think she's talking about the whole picture, right? If we were gonna open it up for slaughterhouses, we will want them to be USDA
Oh, gotcha,
certified.
yeah.
So
I was saying, I just can't be, yeah.
Yes.
I thought you were gonna narrow it down to just, this is what you're doing and that's it.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm just saying like within that,
Yeah.
just to make sure.
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
I mean, to me, this is, it's not just about, 2 or 3 businesses that are close to each other. It's change of laws, which addresses the area as a whole. And it's easy, I think, to have the conversation completely focus on, 1 or 2 companies that are really close to each other, albeit how businesses might be influenced by a new business might make a difference on business practices. And that's true, but I think it's also very easy just to get too much into the details. To me, it's the decision, how I will depend on a couple different things. Is it good for a person as a whole? We're setting a precedent here, and if it seems to be, an economic positive, as well as the constituents in my area that have been contacting me, whatever their sentiment is the way I would go. I just want to recognize businesses are incredibly important, and there are many different types and forms of businesses, and I know that there was a discussion. I'm sorry, I forget your name.
Charles.
Charles, you had sort of opened the door a little bit in terms of. I apologize if I used the term incorrectly. Acquiesced a little bit regarding if this passes through, because it seems like this might happen, that some conditions might be applied. So I wonder, is that something that we want to discuss here or not? Don, you're shaking your head no, which implies no. But I think it should be at least brought up to see if anyone does want to discuss that or not.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I'd like to just talk about maybe some stipulations with the slaughterhouse being because of the way it, came about. So I mean, some of the stipulations that, the owner, making sure it's always gonna be a USDA location, and if ever it's not, then it can no longer be a slaughterhouse. Stuff like that. So I mean, I agree. I don't know if this is, do we figure out some of them stipulations first before we move forward, or do we pass the ordinance and then do the stipulations later? What makes the most sense?
Personally, from my point of view, I think it makes the most sense to come up with what sorts of limitations the council thinks is appropriate. That would then likely or potentially move the permitted use to a conditional use. We would have time to then draft whatever the council thinks is appropriate and the appropriate language for the ordinance, and then bring it back to you for final approval, checking the box, is this what you want to do?
So I mean, do we do that in like ways and means type of session, or how do we discuss and the different stipulations and then bring it? I mean, there's really no hurry. Right now, the building is approved to move forward to build the building. We're just talking about whether the ordinance can be changed to have a slaughterhouse, so that ain't gonna happen for a while yet, right? Is there any hurry why we can't table this until the next meeting and until we talk about some stipulations, or?
You guys can table it for as long as you want, or you can vote on it now. As far as I'm concerned, legally, there's nothing pressuring you to do anything at this point. If you want more time to consider it, that's something you can do. You can send it back to Ways and Means if you feel like that would be appropriate, or you can have the discussion now.
All right, you know, the one of the things is making stipulations and that making sure they're legal. First, you know, that's where you come in. We just can't say, we want this to be a stipulation and then.
That's true. Yeah, if there's not there are some restrictions that a city can't place on a business. Generally speaking, what a city can do is restrict businesses reasonably, as long as it goes to one of our interests, which is generally speaking, the welfare of your citizens, public health, cleanliness, those sorts of things. But as long as it's reasonable, we can generally apply restrictions. But yeah, you're right, I would like to research the legality of whatever restrictions you come up with.
So is anybody else?
I'd like to see it move forward.
But, so my question is, and then Derek, like, is it move forward with a conditional and then we are able to, is what you're saying is we could give a conditional?
Do we have special rules for all the other businesses on the north end of town that, or south end of town that stink, like the meat plant and the bean plant and D Incorporated, that all have odors and other things that cause issues in an industrial area?
But all of them were there, they got the permit before it was done. We're kind of going about this in a backwards way, so that's why I'm thinking, to be, in all fairness to the neighbors, like I said, I'm not against this project. But in all fairness to the neighbors, I think, you know, maybe if you look at some stipulations and just to make sure that it's, you know, that's just my thought.
Well, and Derek, and what you could also do is you can at least consider the stipulations, and then discuss them and see, maybe there aren't any that seem reasonable, and you come back and vote after that. I'd be a little bit nervous to vote and then come in afterwards, and I do think this is a special case. And we do, I think you want to be good citizens too, because it's not just one business, but there are multiple businesses here. I don't know what the other council members think.
Just as a, you know, my preference, if you are gonna impose restrictions, I would like time to have that drafted and presented to you and everyone in final form before that is actually approved.
Will you have time to do it if we pass this tonight?
So you, just sort council people.
And let me answer my question.
Okay.
So if you, let's just say you guys come up with some restrictions, let's just say limited to a certain number of processing a day. If that's the only restriction you want, I can have that prepared for you by the next meeting to then consider in final form, I would say. Depending on how many restrictions you add and how complicated they get, it might take a little longer, but I think I could get it prepared for you by the next meeting, no matter what. If I were to.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any restrictions in mind, like right now, that we're thinking about, or are we gonna be trying to look into it a little bit more, into what we think the restrictions would be?
I think always being USDA would be one. And then maybe coming up with some type of reasonable solution as far as if there is some odor that seems to be unbearable. I'm not sure how we quantify that or how we monitor that or how we regulate that, but that seems to be some of the concerns of the neighbors in the area. So all I'm thinking of is if we can somehow mitigate some of those issues before, you know, we do this, and then there will be less issues down the road if some of that stuff should happen.
And I think this has to be couched in a way that doesn't limit a new business too much that they can't have prosperity, they can't earn, right? So it's just being cognizant of the possibilities.
I agree. I mean, we don't want to limit you know, Brent from doing business either, but, you know, I just think if we can somehow make guidelines now and barriers that might prevent some issues down the road.
But we've given him a variance to continue building. Why would he continue to build if we come back in 2 weeks and say, well, X, Y, Z, you can't do this?
Yeah.
And then he's like, well,
Well, I mean, I hate
Now
to
what?
say this, but I mean, that's a business decision that he made.
well, the facts that I've heard from both sides, the city's a lot at fault here as well, so.
It doesn't mean us council has to be at fault.
And I would just like to, add here that whether or not the city is at fault, that shouldn't really be something people consider when making this decision. You gotta see from your own perspectives, is this good for the city? You're not acting randomly, you're not acting indiscriminately, not acting arbitrarily or capriciously. You're considering whether or not this fits into the vision that you have for Crookston and plan. You can certainly go forward today. That's certainly an option. You can do what Mr. or Councilmember Klotz has indicated and consider restrictions. You can vote it down today. Those are all viable options for you.
Can you do the restrictions later?
Technically, I guess you could. I would prefer not to do that. So the way that works is if we were to approve the ordinance today, as of today, or as of the publication date, slaughterhouses would be allowed in all of I-1. I also want to highlight that this is not business specific, it's all of I-1. If you wanted to, we'd then have to change the ordinance again, go through the whole process again, if we wanted to add restrictions. As of right now, what's before you is to just allow slaughterhouses and processing plants as is in totality with no restrictions. To do it the route that you suggested would be to approve it here today, but then go back and say later that we're gonna make some changes.
I think that gets messy.
I feel that gets messy. It's possible, but I would prefer not to do it that way.
I guess for me, if you're asking for that conditions or on that, I mean, I would like it to be USDA. And I feel like a limitation so it doesn't become this giant bulk. Not that I'm saying there, but somebody comes in and it's not just this giant bulk processing plant coming into town.
My question is to Tanner, when a council member makes a recommendation, would you like this in a motion in a second so that we can have a roll call on this, so that we know?
Also, should we table this until another meeting and then have another line item to talk about stipulations? Does that make?
So there can be a motion to table this for a later hearing. If that's gonna be what the route the council wants to go, I would like to go through roll call and get, because there might be people who don't want to table it.
Right.
So we gotta go through roll call for each of those. As far as restrictions, really what I would need is just a council direction to go. It's kind of like a Ways and Means where we're not necessarily voting on what restrictions we're going to approve, but maybe more like, what would you like your attorney to draft up for our review next time?
So if we can't add it to tonight's Ways and Means, correct?
No.
I wouldn't. I mean, you could just
So
have a
then
conversation.
if it's gonna be ready for the next council meeting, the Ways and Means is typically after the council meeting. So are we delaying it 2 council meetings then?
I mean, I feel like you could have the discussion now about what restrictions you feel are appropriate and give me that direction.
Okay.
And if you come to, and just because you say tonight that these are the restrictions I want, that doesn't mean you're bound by that, obviously. But if you have that discussion tonight, give me an idea of what you'd like to see, then I can draft that proposed language. And that can be ready for next council meeting.
Hunter, would you then present that to the committee? And then the committee comes, Tanner, would you present that to the committee? Is that, or would you automatically just present it to the council?
Are you asking about the commission, the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Yeah.
No, I would probably just say go forward with the council at this point. Planning and Zoning, they did recommend approval of the ordinance, but they did specifically talk about restrictions. You know, you could, as a third option, send it back to Planning Commission for more discussion on restrictions they might seem appropriate. I would note that they did talk about it. They did not come to any specific restrictions, they just basically told the council to consider whether or not.
They just passed it on, they didn't contemplate it at a deeper level, I don't think.
And that's my recollection, is that they passed it on
It came here without any stipulations or conditions, it's just a yay or nay.
Yeah.
I take issue with that. I'm curious from the businesses, is there, if this does get tabled for now, is that gonna be a negative for, I know that, I'm thinking on one hand, we're thinking about across this large area, but since there are businesses involved, you're either at that business or close by, does it matter to you if there's a delay by a council meeting or two? I'm curious. Does it matter?
I think the extra consideration is warranted. I mean, it's important to note that it's kind of a bifurcated action. It's one permitting it, but it's also prohibiting it. And
So you're okay waiting, what about the other party?
Yeah, I think the only thing would be, you know, if Mr. Eppermont needs to order some equipment that's needed for USDA, and it were to pass, how far out are we extending him getting the stuff to start his business? You know, and I don't know if that would be a question for Mr. Eppermont, but, cause I know like on the electrical end, there's stuff it's months out.
Thank you for your comments.
Is there any way that we can do a conditional like approval and then come back and do the overarching when we have the restrictions that we want, or?
I don't think we should do that, no.
So I've heard one USDA approved, I heard something about odor. Is there anything else that this group would like to have considered?
I guess mine was also restricting the amount of processing a day.
Number.
Right, and I'm looking at, that number is not a specific person and how they build it out, right? I'm trying to look at this without looking at certain parties involved and just the actual industry, right? I mean, I think I would like to, if it's going to be happening, if somebody else smaller wants to come in. But I think like 25 or 30 a day, if this is to become a thing, I don't want this to become a giant industrial
I don't think he has the
process.
capacity to go more than.
But I'm not trying not to look at that as an individual
I see.
business, but as an industry as a whole of what we would have here. And I think odor is hard, right? Because it's like, how do we quantify odor? And also, how do we put that into effect for one industry in that area when there are other industries in that area that, I mean, I smelled all week and at my house across town. I know it's a nuisance, I know that can be there, but that's very hard when we have industries already in there. I think the quantity is my biggest thing, just knowing I don't want.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Brent, but you were saying you were gonna do 5 cows a day, and if you increase the number of cows a day, then you gotta have like a feedlot and housing and.
Yes, you have to follow all the rules and restrictions through the state and through the USDA, depending on what you are. But you can only have them for so many hours, and then you gotta feed them, you gotta water them, they gotta be outside.
And there's no. And there, in the industrial park, there's no area big enough for that expansion of that operation.
No, then you're talking.
And I get that, and that's what I'm just saying, like a number, I think also then to that point of having a restriction that no animals are outside.
You can only do so many animals per day per hours of your inspection and your workers. Your workers can only work for 8 hours a day, so they can only do so much a day.
So maybe a guide we could put in there, whatever Brent said he could do a day. I don't know if we have to break it down by animal, hogs, pigs, whatever else, but I mean, just go with the guidelines that Brent gave us already and use that as a stipulation.
Was that 25 to 30?
It was just
Is that
5.
cows?
It was 5 a day.
I know, but then if you're doing pigs or chickens, right, like, you don't, somebody's not gonna bring you 5 chickens in a day.
I have no idea.
Right, like, but that's what I'm saying, like, USDA is saying he only has room for 5 without keeping it out there, that's great, but I'm saying like, I don't wanna restrict also if somebody's like, I'm bringing in pigs, but you're able to process different ways, and that's why I'm just saying in general this.
Yeah, and I'm trying
Without
to.
animals being,
Yeah, and I'm trying to.
I don't know what that arbitrary number is.
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to find what that number would be, but, so 5 cows a day sounds like, and then chickens, pigs, other.
I do not live this industry.
Yeah.
Well, you could put that as stipulation, species of animals, if that's where you're going with this.
Yeah.
What are you planning to do other animals?
Oh, yeah.
What other animals?
Pigs.
Just beef and pigs?
Pigs could be bison, could be wild animals, or I mean, not wild, but domesticated deer, domesticated elk, all that stuff, all the stuff that you see that's out there in your shelves of your stores. I could do any of them once we're certified.
So in your count of animals, it's 5 a day, that's 5 of anything?
No, it can't be because you can do 4 times as many pigs in a day and they don't take up as much room. And they don't have to age for 7 days like cows do.
So 5 times 4, 20 pigs in 1 cow, or no, it's 5 cows a day, and then 4 times that, okay.
And that all depends on your crews and your people, maybe they're really good at it.
But then Brent, if you went from, let's say, cows to bison or elk, it would have to be sanitized or cleaned before you could start a different animal, according to USDA, or?
Well, I think that's where the USDA comes in because they insure all of that stuff to make sure that happens.
They have to be domesticated animals, they wouldn't be wild game. I just use the wild game saying that that's the type. They'd be just, once they're domesticated animals, then they're just like cattle. Because you bring them in the same way, they're a domesticated animal.
Okay, thank you.
So the rendering truck, is there a way to set times of when that can come in and not come in, like say, I mean, how much pressure does that put on you, Brent, if we pick some hours where the rendering truck can come? Is that hard to do, or is that?
It'd be no different than your garbage service. The weather changes, they're coming from.
I say you have a blizzard.
Right. They're coming from Perham, Staples, they're making a run, it'd be hard. Delivery trucks never make it when they're supposed to, you know?
I have a question for Brent. I will assume there will be no doors open, or there aren't any windows that will be open at all in the building? So, because, you know, smells go out of windows and doors, so can we assume you will have no?
No, everything is shut up, we have our.
So there will be a door open or a window or of anything of that nature?
Doors will be open and shut as people come and go.
But I mean, if you say it's a nice day, we're gonna open the door.
You crazy? Then all the flies and shit come in.
Well, that's another concern, or the flies and all of that, so no windows. And so will there be a USDA person the whole time you're in operation, every single day? I mean.
Pretty much. Every day that we're doing
pretty much,
USDA.
that's not a good answer.
We've got different businesses.
Will you have a USDA person? I understood you to say that in an earlier meeting. If there was a paper towel on the floor, they'll say, pick that up. I've heard a couple different things. USDA could come once a week, once a month, a quarter. How often will you have a staffed USDA person in your building?
8 hours a day, every day that you are slaughtering federally regulated animals.
So you will have somebody there every day, 5 days a week?
If I am doing federal that day. Some days I might be doing state, but I still have to follow the same rules.
It's confusing. And I also think.
You know how many different inspectors there are? You got your state, you got your grocery, you got.
Let's reel this in a little bit.
But I'm hearing different answers.
So it's what's best for zoning as a whole, and it's the economic growth. It just happens to be that we're addressing this because someone's planning or is already building this, planning to go forward on this. And so we're trying to figure out a way that it's good for the city as a whole, but also is somewhat appeasing to the people who are here. And that's tough to do, I mean, really. So I'm curious though, with USDA, Department of Agriculture, we're not saying that people running the business are working for the Department of Agriculture. They just, unless you go through a training program, they would just come in and check it and then leave, right? You don't have someone there 8 hours a day, if that's what you just said, that's not.
No, they're there. 8
So
hours.
someone from the Department of Agriculture is there the whole time?
The day that I'm doing slaughtering of federal regulated animals, yes.
I think they observe the process throughout, right?
Yes.
That's my understanding.
Would there ever be a time that you are slaughtering an animal that is not USDA or federally regulated?
It could happen, yes. Say that you had one that went down on your farm, you wanna bring it in one evening and take care of it. It could happen, that's your animal. It's not going through anywhere else. You're taking it and selling it, kinda like, the farmers around here right now. They're taking it somewhere else, but they're selling it themselves, not through a store or anything.
So I think, I guess for me, from what I've heard in the planning and zoning meetings, what I've heard here is that everything would be USDA regulated, everything that you ran. So I think that is where I'm saying, any animal that is slaughtered and processed, I would like it to go through USDA. I would like it to be a
Brent,
USDA.
how many deer do you cut up every year? Hundreds?
800 to 1,000.
Yeah.
We do that in the 2-week window.
Is there a
Just-
difference
just another-
between that and slaughtering it though? I mean, that's where that lands at.
No.
So then
Same
you've been doing
process.
this without any type of
No, they don't require it.
regulation, have been going on without us, with the approval.
In 2006, this was supposed to be all changed, and nobody can find anything.
Well, again, business decisions, but
There also might be a distinction between
that's what my question is.
live animals and deer that have passed away.
That's my question, is like if there is the slaughtering of a live animal there, I think for me, I would like it to be.
So, and Brent, if I'm understanding correctly, if a farmer brings his beef in for his own use and he takes it back home with him, that's not necessarily a USDA process.
No, it would be like if you brought your cow to me, Blaine, I would do it and it would be yours, and then you take care of it.
See, that's where I think there's gonna be a lot of benefit to the community because there's a lot of people out there that just wanna do just that. So, I mean, I don't wanna restrict the USDA so he can't have that part of the business operations, that makes sense,
Well,
because,
he can still do it.
I'm sorry?
He can still do it, it just may be a different price for them.
Right, but what you're getting at, it's not gonna be a
Yeah.
well, that part of it would
He
be.
can do whatever, yeah. I mean, he sets his own charges, if people wanna bring it in, they're just gonna have to follow that.
Well, I mean, it's, we don't wanna restrict him getting the business also, I mean, so the valuable part of him having this business in town is for local people, any of us, talking to a farmer or rancher, say, hey, I wanna get a beef done, buys it, brings it in to Brent and gets it done. So, I mean, I can,
And that's fair, I'm just gonna say, this is the first time I've sat in, I think this would be the third meeting that I've had this, I've had multiple conversations with multiple people, I've heard things, this is the first time that we are hearing that some of this, because what was presented in the planning and zoning meeting and what was presented the first time was that everything would be under USDA
Yeah,
and federally
and
regulated.
I agree, I was to understand that too, I did not know till tonight
Correct.
that if you're bringing it in for your own use or somebody, then it's, that part of it is not a USDA function. So Brent, why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be I mean, why wouldn't they wanna make sure the beef is good and everything is good for that part of the business?
Because you're gonna pay for it, you're gonna pay that higher processing fee and pay those fees that go along with it. So it's gonna change for you as a personal farmer that wanted to take it, or for Delane, you won't be getting it for X amount a pound, it's gonna be $3 more a pound because there's more that goes on with it. It's still taken care of the same way, but you have, they're all the same way, it's just you have the inspector there. When you have an inspector there, you have to do things a little bit differently with the testing for cancer, the testing for liver enzymes that there's just so much testing that goes along with it, well, somebody's gotta pay for that.
So,
You know, and if it's just yours, you're agreeing like wild game, that's your animal. You brought it to me, you trusted me to take care of it, and that's what I've been doing for
so it's
24 years.
cheaper not having USDA for the farmer.
And then you don't have to do it in that 8-hour window. I can open up another day and just do non-inspected animals, you know.
Well, I mean, so that part alone is that, personally I get, I mean, if anybody's looked at a price of hamburger lately, it's like $7 a pound, from any butcher place you get. And if you're taking it in for your own use, to add the US, if we force him to have the USD stamp on people bringing it in and taking them back home, it's their own stuff. That's gonna take that $7 a pound hamburger probably to $10 a pound, probably. Seems right? So I mean, I get that, so I mean, like I said, I didn't know until tonight that part of it wouldn't be the USDA part of it, but I don't wanna restrict him from not doing that, because that's the part of the business I think that really benefits the community. For people to bring local beef in and get their own beef back from the person they bought it from.
The one thing that I'm stuck on is it's hard for me to imagine that the USDA would approve, they have an inspector go in there and oversee animals, and then all USDA approved, and then all of a sudden that same building, if I understand this correctly, is used for other animals. It seems like that's a violation at some point. I don't slaughter animals, but I'm a biologist and I know how infections work across animals. And it seems like there'd have to be great cleansing of that building before you could then process your USDA approved animals. So are you sure on that it's okay to do that? You're not violating USDA rules by slaughtering the same building?
As far as, I'm not sure what you're getting at. With my wild game?
I think what he's asking is
That's totally separate. They can hang in the same cooler next to each other, they just can't touch. But as far as cutting them with saws and stuff like that, no, hell no. You do all your domesticated early in the morning. You can go from pork to beef, but you can't go from beef to pork. And then all wild game, you do all separately at the end of the day. I do all my domesticated USDA stuff in the morning, all my sausage, bacon, all that stuff is done in the morning. And then in the afternoon, that's when I do all my other custom stuff. Yeah. Whether it be hamburger for whoever or whatever, but then it doesn't have to be washed out again.
So thank you for explaining this for someone who's not running in that business. So to clarify then, you could or could not use the same saw on the different animals. So you could go from USDA approved cows to a deer that someone just shot and brought it over to you. You could not use the same saw, or you could?
I can.
You can.
From going from USDA to that, like then I'm done.
Oh, you can't go the other way.
No, but as soon as I cut something different, then I can't go back to USDA without breaking everything down and washing.
I guess I'll just say this, again, I'm not trying to look at this as an individual person, but just as an industry-wide, as this may open up things. I've talked to a lot of people, I've done a lot of, I will just say, everyone that I have talked to has made the comments of, well, it's USDA, so the federal regulated, like, I guess I'm just hung up on that, I don't mean to restrict anything, but that is what I was told. I think that there has been a lot of actions that have been taken in this. Again, for me, I will just say, for me to pass and go on with it, I would want it to be USDA only and the limitation of numbers.
I mean, and I appreciate what you're saying, Morgan, but I'm kind of backpedaling on being the USDA because I want the community to have the benefit of getting their beef from a local person and getting it butchered, because I think that's what's the best benefit for the community. That's what I think. The USDA stuff, he's getting, he's packaging it and he's sending it wherever. But the benefit for the community is having a place to butcher a beef and getting the meat back. To me, that's the biggest benefit that the community can have with his business. Am I correct, Brent, on that?
I agree with you.
So I mean, I'm kind of backpedaling a little bit on being full-time USDA because of that, for that reason. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what I would like to see is, for me to be content to vote, would be to have the stipulations presented back to us. And I encourage us to do our homework in terms of USDA policy. And then I think we should come back. I'm not hearing that this is a issue so much that we can't delay another meeting or two. I would be much more comfortable in that than try to push it ahead and say, all right, it's done. Because it's not just these businesses, it's we're opening it up for all businesses in the future. We're thinking about economic development. Is this right? It could be great. But so what's the reason for delaying a little bit further to do it right?
That's not doing it right, just what we're talking about is kind of interesting because of the fact that we don't trust people running everything, and that we have to trust the people who do it. Not, if it's right, it's right. I think it's right what he's doing.
But what we're saying is we're opening this up and Billy Bob Joe from Texas can come up here and do whatever he wants.
No, we're not.
But that's what we would be doing,
No.
is opening it up to allow that.
Without any
Stipulations or anything like that. It's not that we're not trusting anybody in this room, but what we are opening up is the option. So we have to look.
That doesn't sound like that to me, that we don't trust our people in our city.
And that is why I'm making this decision, not based off of a person, but of the industry and what could open up. That is all I'm saying.
The only concern I would have with doing a deep dive into the USDA and federal food laws, this is 100 feet over everybody in this room's head.
Right.
I dabbled in it at UMC, going to school for farming, and the USDA, the depth and what they do and what they cover is, you're not gonna go Google this and figure it all out in 2 weeks.
Brent, will you just clarify, when you're doing a non-USDA animal, you're deep cleaning in between that animal and USDA animals, right? There's a process that occurs there.
You're basically still doing, you run your business like you run your business. It's always clean. If you come in there today, you can eat off the floors. I mean, it's always like that. So when you set up your SOPs and everything else, you're gonna be doing it the same every day. Your guy's cleaning, your whatever, so.
Sure, but you can't.
But the thing is, I don't have to, if I'm doing 10 hogs for just a local farmer, but I did 10 hogs for USDA for retail sale.
Mm-hmm.
I just do those first, and then I just go into the other ones right after.
Sure.
Because it doesn't matter, it's the same animal, it still came from, you're just getting it inspected. You just have an inspector, it's the same animal.
Sure.
You can have them unloaded out of your same truck, and they go, I want that one USDA, and I don't want that one. I want that one, I want that one. So then we just get rid of the USDA ones because the inspector's there. And as soon as the inspector's done, then he can leave for the day. He doesn't have to stand there and wait for you.
Sure.
You do all them custom ones.
Actually,
Because if you go just straight up USDA, you could have the fact that then I can't take the local ones in because he's there 8 hours a day, every day, because it's structured that way. So the Fed stepped in and said, okay, we're giving you an employee. He's gonna be there 8 hours every single day. So that's all you can do is federal animals.
Ashley and Gail, what's the process here when we want to make like an amendment on a motion then forward? Because we're in the discussion part of this.
Well, I think we could table it, but I would like to bring it back at the next council meeting, so
what you can,
nobody's waiting. I got one final question though, since it's in the heavy industrial zone, so that can open it up to like Billy Bob, like Morgan saying from Texas. And we have a restriction in there that we could only want one and only one?
Spot zoning. No, I don't think it would be spot zoning. No, but generally speaking, we're not supposed to. We're not, no, that would be treating people differently. You can have, I know that there's gonna be discussion later about cannabis and we're restricting the number of licenses we're giving for cannabis. There's not a license for this. So no, I don't think we could say we're only gonna have one.
So why don't we, how does this sound to everybody? Why don't we tailor our restrictions to the needs of what Brent has to run his business currently?
I think that could also get a control.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm just saying then that's.
Well, what that'll do is if we did it that way, then if your scenario of somebody coming in from Texas, they couldn't go above and beyond what our wildest dreams are. Does that make sense? They're still gonna be restricted in the same sense that Brent is in the business. So it's not like somebody's gonna be able to come in and do a whole bunch. Does that make sense?
I get that thought process, but then it is us completely changing the entire ordinance based off of one person. If we are doing this, I'm basing it off of economic growth.
Well, I mean, I hear you and I understand, and I don't know how we get to a solution on it then. I mean, the main thing is we got these restrictions.
Then if we're doing it that way, then I would like, and I get like the state has their own cleanliness and all of that, but then I am going down the, like, no animals outside, only 25 animals a day. That there has to be this high level of cleanliness and smell and all of that, because there isn't that USDA that is requirement on that. So if there's a difference there, that is, yes.
So can you put a restriction in that under no circumstance can you have an exterior feedlot? All animals must stay inside?
100% that.
You know, that's gonna alleviate anyone trying to bring in this monstrosity of a processing center.
Everyone's got a way to work around if you have enough money. I'm not saying, but you know, like I can come build myself a monstrosity that's fully enclosed if I'd like and have enough money. So that's where I'm at. And that's where I'm saying, I don't know what that level and breaking point is, right? Because I don't wanna be like, well, it's 5, and you're like, well, I wanted to do pigs today and some chickens tomorrow and all of that. You can't run a business off of 5 chickens a day, right? So that's where I'm saying, I don't know what that breaking point number is. Is it 25, is it 30, is it 40, is it 10? I don't know on that. And that is where I am asking for the expertise on that, but.
So can you have it segmented out for large animals being cattle, bison, elk, that are domesticated of no more than 5, small animals being hogs, sheep, goats, no more than 30.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I don't know,
I mean.
That's a great idea, right? Like I don't wanna be like, there is that breaking point of, you know, how much money you can make and.
Right.
So like, and then we're like, what you didn't wanna do, we have to ask Brent, the guides, and then if we're gonna set a guideline for other businesses to come in, I mean, we have to, on one hand, not restrict what Brent can do, but on the other hand, limit it to what other businesses that move in can do. Does that make sense?
I think we're learning from this to figure out the right way to move forward. I mean, it's, because we have real people here, we're using this businesses as an example of how we can structure something that's actually gonna work. So basically, we're saying small slaughterhouses with these stipulations. And then someone can come in and have a huge slaughterhouse and it's already approved elsewhere. We're just saying, in this zoning, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna have these, okay, well, I'm not speaking for everyone, considering stipulations on this. And I think having questions that are answered help us to figure out what stipulations would be appropriate for all future businesses that want to have a similar idea. And so this is helpful in both cases. So it sounds like then, if I understand this, we would then table this for the future meeting. In the meantime, you'll be taking these examples, these stipulations, and writing them up formally, and then presenting that back, and then, right?
I can
Does that
do
give you enough time before the next meeting?
Yeah, I can do that. I will probably have a couple different proposed ordinances with different restrictions is kind of where I've landed on, and then ultimately the council will have to decide which, if any of those, they would like to incorporate.
Because when you say this prohibits us from doing business, in a good economic model, it's good for us to hear that, not just for the sake of you all, but for all future businesses who are going to do something similar. And so I think it's hard when we're making comments on this end to think that we're just, acquiescing to a particular business who wants this change in law, but it's bigger than that. So I find these comments helpful from both groups to figure out what's workable, because other businesses will move in as well that are not slaughterhouses. And we don't want to offend them as well, but still give productivity. Well.
So 10 or 2 weeks soon, or do you need longer?
I can have the language ready in 2 weeks. I need to make sure we follow the correct legal process, but I believe that it can be at least discussed in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So then we would need a motion and a second by a council member and a roll call to be able to, again, someone would need to make the motion and second it to table this and give direction to our city attorney to move forward with your restrictions.
And to clarify, if this vote fails then we would go back and vote.
Correct.
Yeah.
So somebody.
So I would make that motion.
I'll second.
You got a motion by Joseph and I heard Don.
Yeah.
To table it.
Yes.
And so to table
And
And the restrictions.
so.
Tanner direction.
Yes.
As far as direction, I'll do.
I'll say them out loud and then he's writing them down.
Well, I mean, but so he's just gonna, it seems like we're coming up with restrictions, but we're talking hard numbers here, and so Tanner's just gonna have to come up with the hard numbers himself.
That's why I'm trying to get direction from
Like, I mean,
council.
just putting it on Tanner, who is an attorney and has no slaughterhouse.
For whatever, I mean, like 30, it's 30.
So I feel like that's unfair to Tanner here, like, that's like.
That's why I'm asking if we're asking for ways and means, or what is the direction of the council and this table?
We're gonna have to come up with these stipulations ourselves, we're just like, okay, stipulations, and we're not actually saying them.
I think some of them are clear though, but the numbers of animals is not, that's
Yeah,
true.
like, I mean,
So
the smell, like, all that stuff, like, that's all like very arbitrary that
To-
Tanner
The smell,
doesn't-
right, I mean, I guess like the smell.
To be honest, on the ones that I was gonna draft, I was gonna have one that was USDA approved, and then two, I was gonna have limiting the number of animals processed, and I was going to leave it blank, large animals, define what large animals are. And then small animals, and then you'll have to decide what numbers. I don't know what numbers to plug in, like you said.
Can we also add no feedlots or animals available outside?
That one is still under our prohibited uses,
Okay.
but yes,
Just double it up.
okay.
to Henry's point, does someone want to offer specific numbers?
We're gonna have to like have a specific meeting where we come up with the stipulations and these numbers and
Yeah,
stuff, because I mean, we can't just like throw it on someone and be like.
I
come up
agree,
with it.
but I don't wanna arbitrarily throw out numbers without speaking to Brent first.
Right.
So I don't want to restrict him from doing business. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I mean, from what I'm hearing,
I am
everybody in
happy
this
to
room
start
is-
calling those same places that I called before and ask them what their numbers are.
Yes, that's exactly.
I mean, I've done it once or twice already,
I'll
I'm
bet you
happy to do it
no
again.
I'll bet you no other, facility has restrictions on the number of animals they can do.
I talked to some and a couple of them said it took a couple years for them to get their ordinances to get permission from their city council.
But do they have do they have a number of animals they can do in a day period or?
I'm not saying I'm gonna ask them how many they can do,
Yeah.
but what is your break even point, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give a number that's below someone's break even point.
So that's what I'm asking council, if you can give us a direction, do you want this at a Ways and Means Committee meeting, or do you want this at a council meeting?
Well,
Do you guys wanna discuss
if we go
this?
Ways and Means, it's gonna delay it another 2 weeks. So, I mean, I'm in favor of Ways and Means.
As am I.
Yeah.
But if it's gonna,
I'm sorry, I cut you off. What?
but if it's delaying I don't know if it's delaying the process with Brent as far as, cause, it's already been approved for him to continue with the building.
And that is up to him if he would like to continue on with this or not. I mean, that, again, that is a business decision.
But are we, I guess I'd like to, you know, hear from Brent too, as far as the number of, okay, to saying 5 cows a day, how many sheep you gonna do a day? If you're gonna do chickens, how many chickens you gonna do a day? I mean,
Like Lynn roughly processes 26 animals a day.
Who is that? I'm sorry.
Lynn?
If council would like, I can work with Tanner and Brent, try to come up with reasonable numbers to present for council at the next meeting.
That would be good, and
okay,
I agree, maybe we should talk on ways and means to get this ironed out to what we want, instead of everybody throwing out different things. And then come up with one solid plan that Tanner can work with and bring it to the.
so push it out
The next
a
week.
month then, if you're gonna go Ways and Means, cause then it's consensus is that Ways and Means, and then it's voted on the next council meeting.
Yeah.
Unless you wanna do a special Ways and Means.
No.
I would keep the normal process, and I think it's okay to delay.
Okay,
So just to be clear, so I know, it's going back to Ways and Means, assuming that motion passes. You don't expect me to come up with specific restrictions yet for that Ways and Means, and then you will give me guidance at that point?
Yeah, you'll have some time after the ways and means to.
Okay.
So everybody is aware, we have, so what the motion is on the table is that we are going to table this for the next Ways and Means Committee meeting, which will be on November 17th, after the council meeting, to discuss stipulations and regulations in regards to restrictions on the slaughterhouse and I industrial zone.
Sounds good.
okay,
Ashley, I.
Yes, you go ahead and tell me anything
The prior motion that was made by.
would need to be rescinded.
Correct.
So we had, Councilmember Cavalier, that was introduced it and seconded by Councilmember Briggs. Would you like to rescind your original motion when you did the ordinance for the rescinding? Would you like to rescind yours? Okay. And then would you like me
And I'm
to do
sorry,
roll
that was
call?
that was the motion that was just made today.
No, this one was for the original,
There was a motion that happened today.
yeah, so that would be, Joseph Strastel and then, Don Cavalier did the table. That's all they said.
Table it.
Table it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't anything.
And we don't need to rescind the first one, sorry.
Okay, so
Actually,
then,
it's not just to discuss, but it's then to provide recommendations. We want something firm, because you can discuss until it's blue in the face.
and provide for recommendations, okay?
okay, let's call for the vote.
All right, Cavalier,
Aye.
Brecken,
Nay.
Lot,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye.
Hibma,
Aye.
Shustel,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Briggs.
Hey.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Tanner. Moving on.
Item 8.03 is discussion regarding nonprofit grants for 2026, Your Honor.
Thank you. Discussion on this one. Darren, please.
Yeah, so this discussion's been before you a couple times tonight. It's for council to determine who and how much, if any, they would maybe awarding a nonprofit grant. Council did receive updated grant amounts in their packet. I can go through them or list them out individually if you would like. But it's at the point where we need to make a determination so we can move forward with the 2026 budget. We'll open it up for discussion.
Can you give a quick summary?
I sure can, sorry, yep. So, the following nonprofit grant requests for council consideration are, all of the grants total $168,700, and they break down as following. Crookston Ox Cart Days, $6,000. Care and Share Organization of Crookston, $20,000. Scruffy Tails Humane Society, $8,000. Golden Link Senior Center, $97,000. Tri-Valley Opportunity Council Transportation Programs, 17,000. The Illuma Foundation, 10,700. And Linus's Legacy, 5,000. And lastly, Downtown Crookston Development Partnership, DCDP, is also 5,000.
So I guess for me, there's two that I'm open for a debate on how much we give, but the two that I'm thinking of is the Golden Link and the Tri-Valley Opportunity Council for the transportation program. And as much as I'd like to give to everybody, it just doesn't seem to be in the cards this year.
I agree with Delane. Golden Link, you know, they do a lot for our senior population. I guess I'm in that boat too, but, and Tri-Valley, you know, it's for transportation. I think that's a big need. There's a lot of people that use the bus service in Crookston. I think it's worth every penny that we give to, at least to, Tri-Valley.
I would just note also that the Golden Link did request 97,000 this year as they did last year. However, in 2024, the city did award them 75,000.
Wasn't that said at a point by the council that they were set at a certain things?
Say that one more time, sorry.
Wasn't it set that for council at one point that it was set at 75,000 not to
Correct.
change?
Yeah, that was a conversation that was had in the past, correct, but obviously you could change that number.
And I agree, I think we should just, you know, especially the ones that keep coming back every year, like the Golden Link, and I think we just, instead of debating it every year, I mean, the debate could be had whether we should give it or not, and maybe the debate shouldn't be had is how much, maybe we should just always cap it at whatever the amount we determine, 75,000.
Did that before.
And they'll just have to figure out how to function with that amount.
That's what I was gonna say next to Lane, was that we should start capping these things in order to save. I'd like to give everything, but we can't.
We actually did cap the total amount a few years ago, and what was that amount? We capped it like 120,000.
Oh, the total, yeah.
That is correct, yep.
Total, but.
Is it 100 or 120?
I think I would agree with Golden Link and Tri-Valley, but again, I also agree with the 75, which we did in 24.
Yeah.
I don't know if we I don't know where it lands on, we just tell them we did every year where that is, but I don't know how comfortable I feel like with that. Doing that for one that's not technically a city organization.
But what did we put in the budget on this line item?
I put 120,000.
But I think, I don't feel comfortable doing a full 120, just where we stand.
So how do we get up to 168 then if we're at 120 before? What's happened in the meantime?
That's everybody.
These are just the
That's everybody.
If we were to give to everyone that asked for money.
One thing about, I think they all do great work, but I think to some extent they need to be at least partially funded. I'm reminded of the Golden Link, which I've eaten at before, by the way, but everyone is charged the same. Shouldn't it only be those who are seniors should have the reduced rates and everyone else should have more?
That would be up to their board.
Yeah, that's
out of our wheelhouse.
But I think that's a good thing if they're looking, I mean, that's
What if
why
they're-
they're looking to
right.
figure it out,
They're asking for money, they do
Right.
good work, but maybe it's a change in the business model then too. Because if I go in there, I should pay more than someone who.
True. Don't disagree with you, but that would be, a conversation with their board.
Yeah.
So, it was brought up in the past too, and they did raise their dues.
Cost on,
How many years did we have at 75,000?
4. No, I believe it's been 2.
2?
Well, and I think the reason why, it was set at 75,000, but I think the reason why we increased it is because of the whole snow removal.
Yeah.
Process, because we were paying for the snow removal and we decided that they should be doing their own, and then to compensate, we increased the amount of money that we're giving them, because that's why that went up so much.
And I'd like to see the monies really focused on Crookstonites. And help me here, but I thought one or more than one of these were a good percent of the people they were serving were people outside of Crookston. Not that they can't be assisted, but that should hold less weight than people of Crookston who are paying taxes.
It's kind of like the pool.
Delaney, I knew you'd pick pull that in somehow.
So, sorry, but I agree. I agree with you 100%.
So any other council members have any comment where we wanna go here?
I would still like to see Oxford Days added in there. Here's my thought is if we did 75 for Golden Lakes, say 15 for Tri-Valley, even if we did the 3 for Oxcart. It's cutting everybody, but it's doing something for them.
I don't know, I still prefer to go the whole 17 with, Tri-Valley. They're only up, I think, 1,000 from last year.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right.
But
So how do we do this democratically? Do we go each individual one and do an up and down vote on any of them to get that out of the way first?
well,
No.
again, I don't know.
Let's do it all at once.
I mean, we.
Consensus,
Okay, consensus then?
yes.
So let's get a consensus then on everyone, so we can narrow it down does that make sense?
I think Tanner might have some.
We have a
guidance.
lawyer.
That way works. I was just gonna maybe suggest,
Good
the
lawyer.
ones that I've heard is Tri-Valley. Someone could make a motion to say, let's give Tri-Valley 17 or 15,000. Golden Link was another one. You could just do each motion separately for whichever ones you wanna have a vote on, and then that would work. Otherwise, you could do a whole slate, but that might be difficult.
So you want us to go each down?
Maybe just the ones that you guys are discussing or considering.
I make a motion to give $75,000 to the Golden Link.
I'll second it.
Got a motion by Delane, second by Clayton. To give 75,000 to Tri-Valley.
That's
Nope,
Golden.
sorry, Golden Link.
I'll see Tri-Valley say no to that.
So what's the aim here then? Are we looking at the specific value of trying to get it down to 120? Is that what we're trying to do?
Or we
Trying to
don't,
get it, I think we're trying to get it to
So I mean, that
Trying to
helps.
get it to 0, but that's not gonna happen.
we don't have to hit the 120 mark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just vote.
I don't even remember how I came to that number, we just used that as.
I think that's what we've used in the past.
Yeah,
That's
in the past.
That was the year before we did.
For a couple of years, I think we.
2 years ago.
So because of the budgetary issues we're up against, where we wanna maybe do some things, but we can't do as much as probably we used to,
So when we talked about the levy at 8% though, that was, we had the 120 in there, didn't we, at that time? Right. And then and that covered that.
But of course, the goal is to get it not at 8, is to lower it from 8.
Yes.
Or to take those funds that if we are to stay at 8, to lower other areas, we can put it into reserve. I guess that's my goal, I shouldn't speak for everyone.
And we're
We'd like
still
to,
working on the reserves because we don't know yet.
we're still working on where we want the budget actually, or the levy to actually land.
Yeah.
So right now it's set at 8%, correct, Darren?
Correct.
And we can go lower, but we can't go higher.
Yeah.
But we are having a budget discussion here, a couple of them before we actually gotta set the levy amount.
We took a commercial break.
Vote.
So let's call for the vote on,
So we have Councilmember Clot and second by Councilmember Briggs for Golden Link for $75,000 for 2026. Cavalier,
Aye.
Brecken,
Aye.
Flott,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye.
Hima,
Aye.
Chastel,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Briggs.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries to move 75,000 to Golden Link. Next one is, Tri-Valley for,
It's not the next one, it's whatever anybody wants to make a motion to.
Correct.
we'll make a motion
I'll make
for,
I'll make a motion for Tri-Valley Council Incorporated for $17,000.
I'll second.
got a motion by Don and second by Henry for 17,000 at Tri-Valley. Have roll call.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Brecken,
Aye.
Flott,
Aye.
Alt,
Aye.
Hima,
Aye.
Chastel,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Briggs.
Aye. Okay, motion carries.
On my foundation, 10 times.
Is there anyone else that wants something in there?
I would like to make a motion for the full 6,000 for Oxcart days.
Second that.
Got a motion by Wendy and second by Joseph to fund $6,000 to Crooks and Oxcart. Let's call for the vote. Am I rushing you?
No, you're good. Cavalier,
Aye.
Brecken,
Aye.
Flott,
Nay.
Alt,
Aye.
Hima,
Aye.
Chastel,
Aye.
Fisher,
Aye.
Briggs.
Aye. Motion carries. So the grand total's at what?
98,000.
What's this Linus Legacy again?
That's a organization that takes in animals and places them for foster care while they're being adopted.
That's good. That's a good one.
Anybody else want to make a motion on anything?
Make a motion on H Downtown Crookston Development Partnership.
Okay,
So
got a
DCDP,
motion by Joseph. Is there a second?
Aye.
so Clayton,
Clayton seconded.
okay, for the amount,
Yes.
for the full amount?
I would do for $4,000.
Okay, so Downtown Crookston Development Partnership, there's a motion to give them $4,000. Roll call, please.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Brecken,
Nay.
Flott,
Nay.
Alt,
Nay.
Hima,
Nay.
Chastel,
Aye.
Fisher,
Nay.
Briggs.
Aye.
This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 nays to 3 no.
Motion fails.
So we don't
Okay.
have anything done.
Anybody else motion on anything?
What's Karen Share Organization, what's their, that's 20,000?
I believe that was for building improvements. They have several areas of the building that need to remodel, and add some kennels.
The Karen share? The Karen share?
Correct.
Not
He's-
kennels.
That's not kennels. You're
It's
talking about
correct,
these
yes.
retail.
sorry.
I
completely apologize. Did you ask for?
Yes.
Somehow my brain. I completely apologize.
So, it's okay, Darren.
You know, I would have to review, was that for just operational expenses?
No, I think it was for,
I think a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Karen Share,
Yeah.
I guess my concern there was when I asked, when you look at the people that you are helping, what is the percentage between people that are in our community and those traveling through? And they answered that the majority of them are people that are traveling through.
Which I
Not discrediting that those people are,
I think they kind of misunderstood what you were asking though, because I think later they came back with an email that said
majority of those people do stay in our community, right? Pretty sure.
I would suggest 15.
I'll second that.
Got a motion by Clayton, second by Derek. This is for Karen share
So motion.
Yes.
for 15,000.
Yep.
Again, 15,000, what, and then that would make us how much over on that? Just wanna make sure.
So one
So that's,
What is that, 113?
13, okay.
puts us at 113 then?
Okay, and this is for Karen.
Okay, let's call for the vote, please.
Cavalier,
Aye.
Brecken,
Aye.
Lot,
Nay.
Alt,
Aye.
Hibma,
Nay.
Shostel,
Nay?
Fisher,
Aye.
Briggs.
Aye.
Motion carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 to 3, motion carries to
Okay.
15,000.
Motion carries for 15,000 the Karen share. All right.
So this is almost 4 points on the levy, right?
Correct.
So we got a total of 113 in nonprofit or donations.
Correct. Nonprofit grants.
Profit grants, 113,000.
And I wanna just ask, make sure that we're all okay, 113 and 4 points. Knowing that that is stuff that we that can't put to reserves or may have to cut services in other places.
So, yeah, I mean, something to think about for 2027 budgets. I mean, this isn't gonna work. What we're doing right now is not gonna work.
That's what I was thinking, that you have your number, whatever that is, which someone said 0, but whatever that number is, and then you vote according to that. You say, okay, we're gonna, for example, you fund everyone in a percentage to get to that point, but we broke it all up and it went differently. This is where we are now.
So but the bigger thing is we are in a crisis mode as far as our budget situation for the city. And we just approved 4 points on our levy. So I just want everybody to think about that. And when it comes to 2027 budget, we have to come up with something, some major changes between now and when we start talking about the 2027 budget, because this path that we're on isn't sustainable.
Yep.
And I don't know how we do it. I'm at a loss. I mean, so we voted tonight like it's not an issue, really. But it is an issue.
Well, Delaney and I said from the beginning, the only two that, or speaking for myself, that I was looking at was Golden Lake and Tri-Valley. It's the only two that should have been funded.
I'll agree with that, that's where I was at, and I was okay, I could have been swayed with boxcar days.
Okay, well, now we know where we're at, moving on.
Item 8.04 is discussion regarding review of the semi-finalists for the city administrator positions.
All right, this is discussion only. Darren, you gonna lead us off on this, please?
Yeah, sure. First, I'd just like to thank Kiana, our Human Resource Coordinator, for all her hard work she did in helping with the city administrative search. With that, council members were provided with a binder detailing the city administrator semi-finalists, or I'm sorry, finalists, not semi-final, finalists, for review and discussion. Just some instructions so we're all clear when we move forward with this discussion. The packets and information that you've been provided is confidential. It should not be discussed or distributed to anybody at this time. Of the candidates that applied, all candidates were scored using a 6-category grading rubric to evaluate each candidate's qualifications. After the scoring, 4 finalists were selected. The 4 finalists are listed in random order from 1 through 4. It is up to council to determine the 4 finalists' rankings. Because at this time, that the candidate list is confidential, and please do not refer to any candidate by their name, gender, race, from where they live, where they are currently employed, or by any other information that could identify a candidate. Only refer to the candidate by their assigned number, which is 1, 2, 3, or 4. That's all I have for instructions. Again, please, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's all we'll refer to the candidates by.
I guess I'm looking at, which candidate would council like to interview? Candidates, I should say.
For me, Dale, I guess right now I would like to maybe postpone it until a further date. I'm not super excited about any of these candidates right now.
My question, I guess, is with Darren, I am thinking none. My opinion is we're rushing it. We're only 5 weeks out from the last administrator. And I guess if Darren would be willing to stay on and we give it a little more time. So we don't end up with the problem of them leaving every year or 2 years.
Well, I guess I hear where you're coming from, but if we don't looking at any of these, and then I guess we're in the process of hiring another search firm.
Well, we're paying out $160,000, I think, for someone we need to be qualified to do the job.
First, I'd state it's very hard to talk about candidates using specific adjectives besides just number 1, 2, 3, and 4. I can do away with saying particular names, but by the reasons why you might have chosen someone, it gets more challenging to try to keep those descriptive factors low. I will say in this pool, this small pool that we have forward, I somewhat agree with Clayton that it could be a more robust pool, most certainly. But the things that I was looking for in these candidates is that how often do they move? I look for stability. Are they there just for part of the year? Is there a track record of a year, then a year, then a year? They're always switching. That's a concern to me for trying to build something long term. I know you can't guarantee someone when you in that they're going to be this, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but look at the track record and see that's the record that they're showing you. And some of them are showing poor records. Or don't have maybe the administrative experience that would help them to succeed. But there are some that show promise. So if I were to choose amongst these, I think candidate 3, for example, might be a viability. And please correct me if I say something that I'm not supposed to say here, but I'm assuming I can, well, I'll just say it. They have some administrative experience. They're coming up to 4 years of that, which shows that there's some promise there. They have a strong sustainability statement. They have finance experience. They have some legal experience, not as a lawyer, but they've worked in some capacity regarding those sorts of issues, which I think is helpful for someone in this kind of position can navigate the waters appropriately. I don't think 2 and 4 are viable candidates from what I've seen, looking through what's been presented to us here. 1 is sort of interesting, not that they have strong administrative experience in leading a city, but they show promise in regards to how long they've been at that particular position, if they moved up in their ranks. And it shows that they're doing something right in terms of they must have some good communication skills, be able to be there that long and move up the food chain. What's not clear to me is, are they able to make the transition, as Darren has done really appropriately, applauding you that you're able to do what you're doing here and take your leadership experience doing something else and bring it here. I'm not convinced everyone can do that. So if we were gonna bring someone in for an interview, I would go with 3 and then maybe a distant 1.
Can I ask, is your reason for not no for 4 because of the lack of stability?
No. Moves frequently.
That's what I mean, sorry.
You said sustainability.
Lack of stability.
Oh, I thought you said sustainability.
Sorry.
Yep. So yes, that is correct.
Any other thoughts from anyone?
So, what are the types of incentives we can, I mean, I know there's such a thing as hiring bonuses, but to promote longevity, is it possible to give a bonus after, say, a year? If you're here a year, you get this type of bonus. If you're here 2 years, you get this type of bonus. If you're here 3 years, it maxes out. I don't know if that's, putting out a bonus structure that far in advance, if that's something, so there's a hook there for somebody to think about before leaving. They say, well, if I leave now, I'm gonna miss out on bonus. Does that sound like something?
On the
flip side.
Generally speaking, sorry, you can't give bonuses to public employees.
That's what we call them, hiring incentives.
It could be some sort of agreement, right?
I get what you're saying, I mean, we
It's
do
not
it in
a
the private
bonus,
sector a
it's
lot,
an
I don't.
incentive.
Right.
But on the flip side, Delaney, if we get somebody that's a poor performer and then they're just staying for that,
Well, that's not to say that we can't get,
just to consider.
right, but if they're doing fine and then they decide, they got another opportunity somewhere else and they're leaving. So we can't even do that at all?
Well,
There's no workaround or anything?
Workarounds are they're not a great idea. I mean, the law is pretty clear on bonuses that you can't give them. If this were to ever go before a court saying we're not expending our funds appropriately, this would probably be evidence, the fact that we had this conversation in a public meeting, but generally speaking, you can't give bonuses to public employees. It's kind of like a gift. Is there a workaround? Could you word it a way that a court might approve? Maybe. It's risky to do so though, or try to do so.
So it's not,
So my understanding, Tanner, is we could do hiring incentives. We could give them an incentive to move here. We could offer them incentive for taking the job. We could offer them incentives at certain increments if they met demand by council. Or council could agree at that point to maybe possibly increase their salary.
And
Well,
yeah, it would be increases the
Increase the
salary,
salary,
increases the salaries, and it's not just based on if you're here for 6 months.
Be all about your evaluation process.
You have to go through just like we've done before with our evaluations on city administrators.
It's funny, Dylan, that we are talking about money again, right? The thing of it is, do we provide for moving expenses to someone who comes in?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I know that there are other incentives that the city uses, right? Not to say that we use them here, but for that railroad spur, we donated, we gave them 10 acres, right? Not to say we'd give acres to someone, but the city does do these other things to bring in business.
Sometimes, and I don't know exactly for the rail spur, I don't know if Carrie's here to answer that, well, but for sometimes we can donate property or other in-kind labor or work that goes against our cost share on grants, so I'm not sure if that was part of, we provide this land at X amount and it comes off the top of a cost share of a grant. I don't know, but that could be part of that situation, so.
I guess I will say, I can see where you're at with number 3. I struggle because the experience that they have is in a very small population. Like very small population. Candidate 1, maybe, I don't know, I think candidate 4 probably has the most experience, but yes, the stability and jumping around there
20 years.
is,
There's a pattern.
yeah. So I mean, I don't know, I feel like almost passing on all of them.
I guess too, you know, when we went through this process, you know, we were trying to keep to the, I don't know, upper Midwest, like the Dakotas, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, just because they know the weather, they, you know, the culture of the region type thing. Seems like we've been striking out when we get anybody from warm states or warmer states, so.
I mean, I recognize the fact that someone might come in, if they come from a warm area, and it'd be nice if they would stay here in some capacity to make change, but keep in mind, the leaders who come in now, they're gonna make changes in Crookston that are gonna last for the next 10, 15 years. So if you get the right person coming in, I think it's okay that they stay here for 5 years, and then they move on. But 1 year, I think, is long enough.
So I think if we're looking for somebody with the lack of education, maybe we should just hire somebody local because they're here and they're probably planning on staying here. So I mean, I think either we hire somebody with the standard that I always kind of use as a master's in the field. We kind of went with in the past. We have had candidates like that.
But I think too, we need a candidate that is somewhat knowledge in TIF, economic development, finances.
There's a lot of confusing stuff that goes on, and I don't think, and where we're at, we need somebody who knows, hit the ground running and not truly learning on the job. It's.
And I don't know if it's changed, but kind of the rule of thumb, with any city administrator, they're 5 to 6 years and then they're looking again. So.
Someone to stick around for 6 years, I'd be happy.
Well, longer than 18 months or a year would be great right now.
Another way to draw, I brought this up once before, with mixed reaction. You combine the full-time administrator position and the mayor position.
That takes a charter.
Yeah, we're gonna
This is not an elected position, so the community votes on the mayor position. And how our charter is set up, it's a voted position, so if you change that, it would be, again, you'd have to tell.
How do you change a charter?
It's.
Is it something that you wanna do? Is it?
First of all, you gotta get 12 people on the charter commission to agree to one thing.
Yes.
So
There will be a charter commission meeting in December, I assume, and there probably will be a change on that will be coming up. It's not a huge change. There is a way to change the charter. It's complicated and there's actually several ways to change a charter. One of them, just to run through them real quick, you can go before the charter commission, who then makes a recommendation. If the council approves that recommendation, that's one way. Another way is by petition by the citizens of the city. They can send it up to the city to the city council to essentially ask that a charter commission or charter change occur. A lot of the ways that a charter is changed ultimately comes down to a vote at an election. There is one way to avoid that, and I believe there's a memo out there that I'll have to send to you, but I believe the route is charter commission makes a recommendation and then the council unanimously approves it. And then still the city, citizens of the city could petition for it to go to a formal vote after that, before it would actually be effective. One other thing I just gotta clarify, cause I was at least partially mistaken on bonuses. as long as we have it, so bonuses, the reason that they're not legal, I guess, is because of the past services. But if you use it as an incentive rather that you've agreed to in advance, like if you meet certain performance standards, then you could do something like that, but it needs to be delineated in an agreement with that person so they know what benchmarks they need to hit. So.
So we could do that.
I mean, going back to the candidates, I agree with Joseph. I mean, I'm not in love with any of them, but I think number 3 would be at least worth a shot to talk to.
I'll go back to Clayton's comment, and I think I've spoken to a couple of you in private about it. I mean, I've hired dozens of police officers and cannabis facilitators, and I've never hired just to hire. And I believe strongly in that, so like I've said, if there's a list that you don't wanna go with, or you wanna suspend the search till later, whatever, I'd be willing to work with the city on that, and if that means waiting till spring or something else, I'd be willing to work with the city, so.
I guess, I mean, I don't know if it's a spring or what the timeline is, but I would pass on this list here. I agree with not just hiring to hire somebody.
I mean, I think it'd be worth it to talk to.
And with Darren being willing to continue, and I think he's done an excellent job at this point, and I would like to see, just to put it off for a little time period, and so we can get ideas. I'd say $160,000, they were saying at the first wage, where we can add different things to entice more qualified people, like you're saying, you know, you only got 2 years experience and you got somebody that might be good, but he's missing out on the education and the stuff or certain things that the city needs. So I'm sticking with.
Okay, so if we table all 4 candidates, do we want Darren to investigate, to look at finding a search firm?
Yes, that would work out.
And see what that's gonna run us.
We're already working on that. These contingencies in case it didn't go through tonight, so we do have some work on that, nothing to present right now. But the other question I would have then is, 1, if we elect to go with a hiring firm, I can present some options to council. 2, if we did incentives, and maybe this has another discussion or tagged on to ways and means down the road, what those look like so we can budget those accordingly in 2026. Yeah. Good job.
You know, the other thing that I want to discuss before we move further along in the hiring process is I'd like to see the person has to reside in the city of Crookston.
So you can put some incentives on that.
Well, you're right, I hear you, and that's part of our charter, you know, our charter reads something along the lines where it has to have council approval to live outside city limits, and that never came to fruition with our last administrator.
I just had a bunch of comments that
I agree 100%.
I do too.
It's already in there, we just have to enforce it.
Like, exactly.
I think it's a great idea to double down on that.
You know, and the other thing I want to bring up is, you know, we've kind of had our performance plans have been kind of, it seems like when they go back to the job description, a lot of them they don't seem to mesh correctly. So I'd like to make sure that we have whatever we put in there for the job descriptions, we build a performance expectations off of that, so when we do a performance review, it was all in their, you know, their job description when we hired them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're speaking my language. Literally said that like 100 times.
Yeah, so I think our HR person, if we can.
I mean, I think that's another thing we can bring up in another ways and means.
Great.
Those
I'm just-
expectations would be
Yeah.
what council wants. I mean, we could help you provide some ideas. But at the end of the day, I think those expectations would be council's determined.
Sure.
See?
So the search firm, I mean, if they're gonna go try to contact different people, there's some great people in administrative positions right now across the United States. Sometimes they just need the call, right, to say, hey, we would love to see you come over to Crookston. And that's what these search firms are doing. There's no reason why, easy to say, but we could do some of that ourselves, if we wanted to.
You could. Some of the advantage of hiring firms, like you said, they have the networks already. They already have people they may know in areas interested or looking for these jobs that we don't know. But yeah, they're very expensive also.
What is the cost again? Did you say that earlier?
They range, I think the last one was 45 or 50,000. Some of the industry standard is half of what you're paying the salary of that administrator. Some are less. Some come with guarantees, some don't. Guarantees meaning if they leave within a year, they'll do another search for you at no cost. There's different industry standards across the board. And happy to research those for you and bring those back to council.
So it could be that they only get paid if someone is hired, correct? They don't get paid if no one's hired.
I believe there's a guarantee. I don't know. I don't want to answer that without specifically. No, I think they
I think you're right.
stay on until someone's hired. I think the guarantee is usually until someone's hired. But
It's easier to sleep at night knowing that, yeah.
And was this just Tiana going out to find people? Like, this was just our own posting here, or did we use other resources?
So that was an internal search that we conducted. We used League of Minnesota Cities, which also triggered Indeed and some other hiring firms.
I know she put a lot of hard work into this, so.
She did.
Many thanks to
It was
her.
She did.
She definitely took lead on this. It was a group effort. It was a lot of work.
Okay, so we know what direction we're going. Okay. All right, council reports, anything else, Darren?
No, I did attach my report to the original packet. Any questions council has, I'm available for those. Otherwise, just further discussions at Ways and Means tonight.
Thank you. Don, anything?
Not tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. Derek?
Just one thing, Wendy made my light bulb go off earlier, talking about Yulin Locker, and you said 26 animals today?
So,
That's smack dab in the middle of Yulin, right in the middle of town. Just food for thought, that's all I have.
I stopped at that one.
Okay, thank you. Lane?
That's tonight.
Thank you. Wendy?
nothing.
Thank you. Morgan?
Nothing.
Thank you. Joseph?
Two things citizens have brought up in Ward 1. One is regarding, and something I'd like to talk to council in the future about is cleanup and how to best introduce, explain, remind about policy changes for cleanup week. There's some angry people in Ward 1 about things not being picked up, and I think just to revisit that as a group might be helpful. The other thing is also having a conversation more about the water issues and the lead testing. I think going further, I think we should bring that and talk about that, see where we are. Because I'm being asked questions about that. That's all I can do is explain what I know, but I don't know a whole lot about the situation, so.
Chuck, can you bring that information as far as forward?
For the lead and copper sampling?
Yes.
Yep, so.
Well, not now, I mean.
No, so I'm just gonna explain, it's gonna take a little bit.
And you've been very helpful. I didn't want to put you on the spot now. I figured that in a future meeting.
Right. Yeah.
Your findings, and just so everyone is aware, who's listening and everyone here in this body knows where the process is right now.
Sure, yeah, I won't have the numbers for the resamples for the 3 locations that tested high. It took a little bit to get the bottles in, and I have 2 of the 3 scheduled for sampling next week. I'm still waiting to hear back from the 3rd homeowner to see when I can get in there and do the sampling, and then we send them off. It could take up to a week, week and a half, depending on how busy the lab is. And then I'll have those results, and I can present those retest results to the council to let them know what took place.
And then at a future council meeting, you just wanna give us an update on cleanup, how we, maybe tweak it, or if we gotta get notices out sooner or something, or
Yep, and then I'm also waiting for this week to end. And I'll have more numbers coming back in from the crews for having to go back out and taking people's stuff that are still out on the berm.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else, Joseph?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Henry?
Nothing for me.
Thank you. Clayton?
Street Department did a fine job on cleaning up gutters and curbs of leaves and tree branches and stuff, so looks pretty good. I can see the curb.
Still working on it. They're
Thank
out there.
you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Not much on my end. I know I just attended the airport meeting the other morning and it was too early and I forgot my notes, so I can't remember what it was all. I know we talked about the hangars, the funding, and I know we gotta approve all those contracts yet, but we didn't have a quorum. So that's kinda all up in limbo yet. So they're gonna have a meeting here soon for the airport. That is all I have. Just a reminder, we do have a Ways and Means meeting. Thank you for everyone that's here. Nothing else become for council, we are adjourned. The Means Committee meeting order for Monday, November 3rd, 2025. We've got 2 items on the agenda. The first one is cannabis discussion and the next one is budget discussion. So we'll start with the cannabis, and I guess it's in Darren's court, please.
Yeah, and I'll try to make these both quick. We just have a few questions on some stuff moving forward in both these areas. I just kind of open it up for a little discussion, but you know, we've been discussing cannabis regulation for some time. As you know, a year and a half or 2 years ago, the state legalized cannabis, and they had very little, if no guidance, when they first passed the law. And thankfully now they have changed some of that, and they have released or updated some guidelines or statutes that are applicable to cities and counties. So the reason why some of this came forward is we have started getting inquiries or received some preliminary applications from some local businesses or possible businesses as the state's in the process of reviewing and issuing preliminary cannabis licenses. So this discussion at this point probably is more informative. I do have some questions as we move through it towards the end, but I just kind of want to explain or update where we're at with the statutes and where the city ordinance and kind of how we land. If there's any questions or comments or changes or something you'd like to see as I go through, please shout that out. But again, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, what this kind of looks like, and what it kind of looks like moving forward. So the city of Crookston, under Minnesota statute, has the authority to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the city of Crookston residents, and they may adopt reasonable restrictions such as hours of operation, location, and number of cannabis businesses in the city of Crookston. So attached to your packet that was sent out is the adopted City of Crookston Cannabis Ordinance that Tanner and his office reviewed, prepared, and had presented earlier in the year, I believe, and then a draft cannabis application. And then also we attached, it's called a guide for local government on adult use cannabis and lower potential edible licenses. That packet that we gave you was published August 8th, 2025 by the Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management. It's very informative, answers probably a lot of questions some of you may have, or if after the fact you have questions, I would highly encourage reading that. It's an easy read and it's very informative. So as part of the restrictions, there's several areas I wanted to cover that we can consider. And one is registration. So a cannabis business needs 2 things. They need a state and local retail license before they can open operation in the city of Crookston. And there's 6 types of licenses that we will probably review or allow in the city of Crookston. Again, those are also in the draft application that we include in your packet. But those 6 are a micro business, and the other one is a meso business, and I'll explain what those 2 are. And they're almost identical except for one part. So a micro business and a meso business, they may cultivate, manufacture cannabis products, cultivate and manufacture cannabis products, hemp products, and they package those products for sale to customers or other licensed cannabis businesses. The only difference between a micro and a meso is you can only have 1 retail location as a micro business, and as a meso business you can have 3 locations versus 1, otherwise it's the exact same thing.
And as a city, we can't restrict those numbers.
We can, and I'll get to that.
Okay.
You bet. Probably the more common one I would imagine we would see in the city of Crookston would be a cannabis retailer. So they can sell immature cannabis plants, seedlings, cannabis itself, cannabis products, hemp products, and other products authorized by law to consumers 21 years of age or older, and also to registered medical patients. So if they had a medical card. That is one that we can really, and this applies to also the meso and micro businesses. The number that we can limit those is per population, which again I'm going to explain just a little bit further down the road. We can also have a municipal cannabis retailer, which would be obviously city owned and operated. We could have a medical cannabis business, which same thing, cultivate and manufacture cannabis and hemp products for sales to customers and patients with licensed cannabis businesses, and they can also transport and deliver the cannabis. That's the difference there, is they can deliver and transport, but they can only be 1 per congressional district, and there's 8 districts in the state of Minnesota. So unlikely we would see a medical cannabis store in the city of Crookston just because of the restrictions. And then lastly is the lower potency hemp business, which the acronym is LPHB. And again, you can only sell those products to people over the age of 21. And those are what we currently have that you see in Crookston, like some of our off-sale locations are selling them, or other stores in Crookston. Those are your edibles, the oils, beverages, mixed for beverages, food products, things like that. So those are already in the city of Crookston, and the city of Crookston cannot limit the amount of the low edible businesses or low potency hemp businesses in the city of Crookston. So we can't limit those, but we can certainly, we need to have a license locally moving forward. They have a grace period here, we're moving forward to operate in the city of Crookston. So that's kind of a definition of the businesses that we would likely see put in for application in the city of Crookston. The fees, and again, you know, when this first started, there was a lot of discussion about fees, and now the state's come out and they've updated that and they've restricted the amounts that we can charge. So internally, unless there's other debate for this, we have proposed a $50 application fee. This isn't for the license, this is just for the application fee. This would cover any background fees and staff time for us to research those applications once they're received. And then the local retailer license fees. So the state has set those fees. The initial fee, except for a municipal, which would be more or that lower potency hemp edible, the initial fee is $500. And then the renewal fee is likely going to be $1,000. The state says renewal fees capped at $1,000 or half the amount of a state license fee, whichever is less. So currently, state's charging $2,000. We could charge $1,000 for the renewal fee. So $500 for the first initial license. Then a year later, on the anniversary date, we could charge them $1,000. The low potency hemp businesses, the license fee would be $125. Then we start talking about buffer zones, zoning and use, and hours of operation. And again, these are written in our ordinance currently right now. The fees would be in the application, and they're also referenced in the ordinance. But so state law does not restrict. Of course, we could change these. That's the other reason why we're bringing this up. State law does not restrict how local governments conduct its zoning designation for cannabis businesses. However, they cannot be so restrictive to prohibit the operation of a cannabis or hemp business. Kind of a little bit earlier how Tanner mentioned with the slaughterhouse. We can have restrictions, but we can't restrict them so much to operate, you know, that we prohibit at least the operation of that business. So we've kind of adopted the state's guidelines on the cannabis buffers, and those buffers are kind of as following. Again, you could be more restrictive if council determined, but and current in our ordinance, 1,000 feet of a school or another retail cannabis business. And then it would be 500 feet of a daycare, residential treatment facility, and a public park that is regularly used by minors, which includes playground, equipment, or athletic field. Those would be the buffer zones currently right now. Zoning and use. So the cultivation for cannabis or hemp in our ordinance would be allowed in I-1, the heavy industrial, and I-2, light industrial. So again, that's, we've been talking a lot about I-1, that's south of Crookston Industrial Park. I-2, light industrial, that kind of follows, if you drive from Ampride, you know, to Christian Brothers, Fairfax, that route along in that way. And then the cannabis retail, they're zoned currently for C1, which is central business, so that's the downtown district. C2, highway district, that would be kind of the Fisher Avenue or Highway 2. Past Hugo's up to UMC. And then C3 shopping area, that's kind of the Walmart mall area up in that area. That's currently where they're zoned for permitted use. Hours of operation, as of right now, cannabis could be sold from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., which I think often mimics the off-sale of alcohol. Compliance checks, prior to issuance of a cannabis retail license, the city of Crookston would need to conduct a compliance check of that business. So we would be looking at, you know, type of product they're selling, zoning, making sure the buffers are correct, things along that line. And then per Minnesota statute, the city would be required to conduct at least one compliance check per year for each cannabis and hemp businesses that are allowed in the city of Crookston. So when we talk about number of businesses, back to your question, Delane, cannabis business, a city or county is required to allow at least one cannabis business per 12,500 people. So Polk County has a population of approximately 30,413 per the 2024 consensus, or census, I'm sorry. So, meaning that's 2.43, I would imagine, or guess that would be 3 that they would have to allow. We'd have to get some clarity on that, but, so if Polk County allowed 3 cannabis businesses, the city of Crookston would not need to allow a cannabis business. Currently, to my knowledge, I believe there are 2 in Polk County. So Crookston, however, could allow a cannabis business if they so choose. They could allow at minimum 1. So I guess some questions that I'm looking for.
So,
go ahead.
So my thought process behind this whole cannabis deal when the state adopted it was, well, if the city of Crookston is gonna have it by law, by the state of Minnesota, why don't we start our own municipal cannabis business? That, and with the caveat of, then no other, I thought that would stop any other business from opening, which it sounds like no, it doesn't.
So when the laws first originally were published, your municipal could be included as part of the 1 per 12,500. But a few months down the road or further on, they updated those and they eliminated that. Meaning you still, even if you had a municipal, you would still need to allow 1 other retail location.
So the thought process was that if we're gonna do this, the city might as well make money to help our financial situation. But after all the research that we've done and we've asked different people to look at a city-run cannabis store, it doesn't look like it's, I mean, doesn't look like anybody has the appetite to do that, really.
I think there's 2 parts to that. One, if you would purchase the product from another distributor and just sell it that way. And I think there was at one point talk about cultivation, which is a whole separate beast in itself.
Yeah.
And I know, and I think I could get some numbers for you again, because I mean, regardless if the council chose, we would have to allow 1. We could still do another one, a municipal. But you know, I think some of the sticker shock was the, you know, finding a location, staffing it, purchasing the product, etc. And you know, maybe it would pay for itself.
Well, and, you know, and that's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, we haven't ever really done a full business model and a return on investment. So none of that's been presented.
Right.
Even though that's kind of what we asked for. And I don't even know if, it seems like we've asked and it kind of gets put off or whatever. But if that doesn't work, then I suggest that whatever the maximum amount we can make is, because the only way the city's gonna make any money is from the tax revenue.
All the tax revenue goes to St. Paul. They're not.
So the city doesn't get any benefit.
We get nothing from this. We get the license fees, and then the state also makes us do compliance checks, but won't reimburse us.
So my suggestion is, you said there's a cap on all the license. I suggest we go to the cap on them all.
So there's 2 parts to it. One, council could make 2 decisions if Polk County, and I'd have to look again to see how many there are. If Polk County had the maximum required cannabis businesses, or minimum, I should say, that they would need to be allowed per statute, the city wouldn't have to have any. Of course, the city could also choose to have 1 for the population. The city could choose to have 10 of them if they wanted, but again, there's no return back to the city on these, so.
Could the county come in and be like, no, we've maxed out for the county number, no, you can't have 10? Not saying we're having 10. So let's say the county has maxed out their number. Could the county come in and say like, no, you don't get to put 1 in here? Because we reached our max.
That would be the authority of the city to make that determination. But we don't do.
But if the county has reached its max.
If they've met their minimums, we should say per capita, then we would not need to be required to have a business in the city of Crookston.
But if we don't do any, and then the county can go ahead and put one in, right?
They could not put one in the city of Crookston unless we gave them authority to do so.
Okay.
So those would be the two options.
But then the county would take the license fee and everything else, or is that still?
Right, if we chose to turn over the authority to the county, they would do the application process, receive the fees, and they could determine how many they wanted in the city of Crookston.
And that's not a good thing.
Correct.
No.
I think where some of that comes into play is small communities that don't have maybe an organized board or anything like that. They could just turn that over to the county to do that for them.
So there's not a whole lot of money to be made here.
There is $500 from the application fee and $1,000 renewal fee each year.
We can't go over that.
Correct, they set the fees, correct.
And the $1,000 renewal fee is cheaper than the alcohol one.
Correct, depending on what type of alcohol license you're getting, but typically, yes.
Right, are there some other negatives with this as well? Are we opening ourselves up to, I don't know, is there a connection between cannabis use and crime?
Do you have enough time? I could present a whole packet.
Well, I'm looking at you.
You gotta remember my background as a police chief, and if I had my way, I would have none, and I've presented that before.
State made it legal, so I mean.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
But
Same boat.
But I get that, but I think the power here is to let it in the city, right? The full county, or excuse me, the larger county can do that, right?
So what it is East Grand currently has 2, right? So there's the gray areas, have they reached the max for the county where we can say no? But let's say there was only 1 in East Grand and somebody wanted to come here, we don't have the authority to say no.
Even if it's in the city, I thought we could say no.
Unless the minimum requirements were met by the county, which I would have to check if they are currently or not.
I mean, the law states they can be around here, I thought you were insinuating that we had control, that we could say it could be in the city or not.
No.
Okay.
So on that point, I didn't get to call you later, but so there is there needs to be at least 3 in
this
county.
okay.
So it rounds up, I know you said 2.4 based on.
It does round up to 3, and that's what I assumed, yeah.
I confirmed that.
Okay.
So yeah, as of now, if we had an application, we would have to approve 1.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you might as well go with the flow, that's what Delane is what you're saying, right?
Right. So, Kate, I think I understand where you guys are going there. So, I mean, the consensus would be if we had to, we would issue the minimum 1. I mean, per statute right now, if we received a license, we would have to issue 1. Unless, in the meantime, the county had another one issued, then we wouldn't have to issue any. But, we need to keep moving forward with this process, so. Is that kind of where I'm getting consensus from?
And the buffer zones, can we make it so it's just 1,000 feet from, instead of the 500, can we go 1,000 across the board? Is that too restrictive? Just to be consistent, so, I mean, to make it.
To do 1,000 feet instead of a 500, I don't think we can be more restrictive on that, can we?
I would, of course, this hasn't been litigated yet, but the statutes specifically say what we can do, which is what we copied. With Crookston in particular, if we go to 1,000, that probably eliminates most of the city, just because we have a ton of park zones, we have a ton of school zones.
Okay, that's great. My thought is to very.
But we can't do it legally.
Different than our earlier discussion where I really would love to have some kind of economic development. This is not the kind of development that I see fit for a community.
Just remember too, we can research that. Sometimes with statutes, be more restrictive becomes a gray area, but remember, we can't restrict it to the point that we would eliminate any businesses from coming into town.
So my comment to that is me personally, I would limit it as much as legally possible.
The deal is, if you go 1,000 feet, so that eliminates the city, then does the county have the trump card on that?
No, the only time the county has a trump card on that is if we have the authority of that to the county.
Okay.
Are we allowed to add restrictions on 500 or 1,000 or whatever feet would be allowed to, let's say, churches or houses of worship?
Yeah, churches?
That one I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
Church on everything.
I mean, it's possible.
I don't want to restrict it to churches, I mean, any type of, house of worship.
Yeah, there's certainly possible that could be added. One big overarching thing that I'm worried about is that if we add enough restrictions, we can make it so the entire city of Crookston is off limit, and then we're gonna get in trouble if we do that. I know that some cities will probably do that, or try to do that. But they might face a lawsuit too. But it's certainly possible with houses of worship.
Remember, they are only permitted in certain districts already. So that's also gonna limit them on where they
Well, I just know
can
we
be.
have a couple churches downtown and.
Yeah.
So, cities that have municipal liquor stores, I mean, I'd like to know if it's, do they make a decent, do they make a decent amount of money to help the tax base in the city finances? So I mean, and that's where I was going with the municipal, because we can't, there's something in our charter or something, we can't have a municipal liquor store in Crookston, is that correct?
That was a long time ago. They
Not
call
in
it-
our charter,
I thought there was something written, anyhow, so.
You're right, yeah, I think an ordinance.
That being said, I mean, if we're gonna do it, I'd like the city to somehow benefit. But again, it takes somebody to do some research and looking at that type of stuff. But like I said, I just don't think we have the appetite to do that, but I'd rather us benefit than somebody else for doing this if we have to have one. But
Well, who's not saying down the road that the state won't give some of the tax dollars back to the community?
That's
We
what I
don't-
was gonna ask. I'm
we don't
pretty
know
sure some
that.
of those dollars do get funneled back into the city eventually.
But right now, St. Paul said they're taking all the tax dollars from cannabis.
I think originally they said 9% was gonna go back to the municipality.
Right.
They pulled that too.
yeah,
So,
well, anyhow, I mean,
and we can have further discussions about municipals. I'm happy to look into that and see what that, I mean, I'm sure municipal liquor store, I'm sure they make a fair amount of money.
Yeah.
Municipalities.
Thief River does well.
Yeah, but again, remember, even if we did municipal, which council decided that's fine, we still would have to allow one more. Unless, again, the county in the meantime permitted another third, license.
and like I said, I have heard like in the places in Colorado, they started out doing well, like all the different places that open, but over time, they're not doing as well, I guess, some of them. So they kind of filtered them themselves
Yeah,
out of
the market. And then back to that again, that low potency hemp business, we can't restrict the amount of stores or places that can sell that in the city of Crookston. And then back to the other question I have, and then this is the end of the discussion I have for cannabis, unless council has anything else, would be the selection process. I know I spoke with Tanner and Ashley, and I have spoke with this, as this would likely fall on Ashley for a lot of this. So we have received some inquiries on obtaining local cannabis retail licenses. And I guess the question, and we could even do some, how would the city like to conduct that selection process? Couple options is, we'd have allow a period where we would accept those applications and then select a retailer by a, non-discriminate lottery process. And I know some other municipalities have done that. Another one could be work with local businesses, if there are any in town currently that wanted to expand. Council could determine if we wanted to do that route, but.
Can we require that they're a Minnesota resident? I just know that that's a big issue right now, that the state with their license is giving out a lot of them to people that are not from here.
Good question again. Yeah, we'd have to find the answer for that. I don't know the answer to that. I guess our suggestion would be, you know, again, working with Tanner on having a non-discriminatory lottery process where we get them in. We've heard some cities that once it's open, they've received, you know, 100 plus or more. And then to have some type of selection process that we could have to allow that. And again, they would have to meet all the zoning requirements and everything in between. I think Tanner might want to comment on that too, so. We just want to make sure we're checking all the boxes with the state and that we're not violating anything. State statutes, it's way too easy to do.
Morgan's asking some really good questions. On the restriction to Minnesota resident, I think that is tough. One, I'm not sure that you could do it. I don't know that for sure. I would want to look into it. But another issue is like, it's super easy for someone to make a Minnesota-based LLC.
Yeah.
All they need is an address or even a PO box, and they can do that. So that would be one way a person could get around that. But it might be possible. I think that is a risky thing to attempt to do. One other option that's available, but I don't think this is a great one either, is first come, first serve. Whoever gets their foot across the finish line first from the state. We could say that's the person that gets it. The problem with that is who knows if that person actually has a business plan or if they were just rushing to the finish line rather than actually putting their time into seeing if this would work and if they're following the rules and that sort of thing.
So they would have to have a business plan?
No, they don't. No, they wouldn't have to. No, I'm just saying, one reason to not go with the first come, first served basis is because it incentivizes someone to rush through this process. Rather than if you do the lottery process that Darren brought up, where you give everyone a date where they have to have their application in, and as long as they meet all the criteria and their name goes in the hat and you pull it out of the hat, that person wins. That eliminates that incentive to rush through the process for the businesses.
And then they need like a Minnesota cannabis license, something?
They need to be preliminary approved by the state.
Okay.
Once they receive a preliminary approval from the state, they can at that point apply for a local retailer license. But I think the other nice piece about having a lottery versus, again, even like Tanner mentioned, and some problems you may have with that is it's our understanding that some businesses are just literally throwing darts on a board to see how many they can get out there first to get approved. And, you know, like Tanner said, they may not be far enough along the process and could hold up a process of somebody else or someone that might be looking. So I think having that application process, making sure they check all the boxes, and then we can do a digital lottery that's legitimate, and you can have a selection process done that way too, so.
What is our deadline for this? Because I know that has changed like 50 times.
You know, some of the lower hemp, looks like they gave them some exceptions was the end of last month, kind of when we first found about this, but it does looks like the state has given some exemptions to lower potency hemp businesses to continue operation until this process is done. But as of right now, I don't know that there's been any retail cannabis licenses actually outside of a preliminary status approved by the state of Minnesota right now. There might be, that's a big statement, but they're coming. We're still in front of this a little bit, but we need to keep moving on, so.
And then this is strictly a cannabis establishment. They can't sell alcohol and tobacco along with it. It's gotta be standalone.
You cannot sell tobacco at the same place that you sell cannabis.
That's interesting.
And I don't, as far as the alcohol piece, I think you can only sell low potency hemp at an off-sale location. You can't sell cannabis.
Okay.
But unless there's some real marching orders, I think I understand where council is going with this or wants, we can move forward with our application. We could open up some application timeframes and look at lottery systems, unless you want us to bring back something for final approval, or how would council like to move forward?
Can you summarize what you think council wants?
Sure, I can. So from what I've taken from that is, at this point, we would allow the one, if we have to, the one business to meet the minimum requirement. You know, there was talk about reducing the zones, as far as the buffer zones. we can do some research on that to see if we could reduce those, or increase those, I should say. I guess I didn't really get any feedback on the lottery system, but I'm just kinda going with that process unless there's other comment from council.
I think lottery is a good way to go.
And, I guess those were really kind of my questions, unless council has anything else that they'd like to add to that.
So basically, let's say we got licenses out there and they go lottery system, is there a deadline when they have to have their applications in, or?
Yes, we'd establish that. We'd give them a fair time to turn those in.
Okay.
And you know, we talked about these buffer zones. If we did restrict them further, just remember again, we'd have to go through approving the ordinance again, amending it, so.
I think the zones are good. I mean, I think looking into that municipal is probably the best idea for the city.
Again, on those zones, and I'm a big proponent of zones, obviously, but I do think that it would get too restrictive for the city of Crookston. We already do have the zoning as far as the buffer zones, we already do have the zones where we allow the businesses. I do think we might start touching on the area of too restrictive, where they wouldn't be allowed to have any businesses in town, so. Again, unless there's a real hard push to look at amending those, I think they're fair.
So what happens if, let's say, they're downtown and a daycare decides to open downtown?
So if they were there prior to the daycare coming in, they would be exempt, meaning that they could stay there.
Okay.
So, any further questions? Pretty much gave Darren the marching orders to go forward with this. He's the right person in charge of this, for sure.
Sure. And there is just a consensus again. I don't know if anything needs to come back before council. We've had the ordinance approved.
The biggest thing is just to know about the low potency. Individuals will be making that application sooner because their deadline is. So that would be a part, but it wouldn't be anything else. It's just the low potency to allow those continuous businesses to keep moving forward with that. So that would be.
Would we need that on a resolution, as they're saying?
I would like that, yes, because that needs to be approved. So that would be at the next council meeting, just for the low potency, so that we can move forward to establish that fee is okay at $50, or what did it was $50 for the application fee, and then the license was $125. That's just the biggest thing that we need to move forward with. Everything else can kind of be moved around a little bit longer, but that low potency was our biggest push to get it to council.
And then the low potency, like off sales and convenience stores can sell that?
Once they made application, yes, continue that. That's why we needed to push this.
And then any license moving forward, we'd have it approved before. Yeah, we'd bring back to council before it's approved, so.
All right.
So we'll bring those back, next meeting.
That works for low potency, have it on the next council meeting?
Yeah, we'll have a list of the current businesses that have been approved or have license from the state, the low potency hemp businesses, and bring them back for approval.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, like I said, not a lot of questions of this, more informative, just so, there's been so much questions around this over the last probably year and a half on where we're going with this, and this just kind of sums up everything. I think we have some more clear guidelines on how to move forward with this, so. That's all I have.
Good information.
You good? All right, moving on to the budget discussion.
This is very brief. Just wanted to open up opportunity, again, just looking for, maybe some more feedback or direction, council moving forward. Now we have the amounts for the nonprofit grants, I can figure those and reduce those out of the budget. If you remember, when we presented the preliminary budget, we had a shortfall of $171,570, or an increase of 3.83% in the levy. Just with the reductions on the nonprofit grants, I would bring it down to $164,570, so $7,000. The plan is we have our truth and taxation meeting the first Monday in December. And I guess some direction on council if they'd like me to wait till after that or at the next meeting, bring another draft version of the preliminary budget. Are there any other budget adjustments council would like to see, you know, either adding or reducing? Are we still comfortable with the current CIP list that we have? There was been talk before about detailing, you know, some of the large expenditure projects we may have in 26 or years, you know, 27 and on. They'd like to see again the big picture of that. So I guess just looking for a little direction on that. I'm pretty solid on, I think, where we sit. And again, just maybe throwing out there, I'm not sure yet, I don't have any specifics, but it might be possible. We have to have a special council meetings at some point. I don't have any right now, but just to kind of throw it out there that if we did schedule that, there's a lot to cover yet in the next short period of time, so. I guess that's really what I'm looking for right now, is if there's any other direction or anything you'd like to see at the next budget meeting, for council.
I would just, thank that report, whenever you can, in the future, when you have those numbers, to give maybe the high and the low for reserves would be helpful.
Okay.
What's our, are we been interviewing on anybody for the finance director?
So, last I checked, I think we had, it was 5 or 6 applications. It's still running. I believe it, I'd have to look, it might close now, but it, last week it was still open. I can tell you the totals that we have real quick. I should be able to. But it's still open. We're still accepting applications for that.
And I know we talked about this. I don't know if we need to talk about it till after the first of the year. But have you done any research on, is there any legally, is there any type of question about the pool we can get on the 2026 ballot?
You wanna have it on the ballot?
I wanna know if there was some discussion on it's not legally possible to ask a question at one point in time, but.
Just to put out there, like, about the pool, or you're talking about?
Yeah, something about, is there,
okay.
Have we researched that yet, or, I mean, what types of questions can we ask, or is there, what can we do and what can't we do with regards to the pool and get something on the ballot for Crookston residents?
Okay.
So it'd be.
Because that's gonna hinge, the reason why I'm asking that, and it's early now, but that's gonna hinge how we move forward with the pool next budget season.
If they're willing to up the levy big bucks to super the pool.
Yeah, or maybe we need to figure out what questions we want to ask. First of all, I mean, when we first started, we were told that, no, we can't ask any types of questions about that on the ballot, but now I hear there are some types of questions we can ask. So what I want to know is what can we do and what can't we do?
I'll absolutely get you those answers, no problem.
And that caps the conversation we had before, because then we would know the motivations of using the pool in the long term. And if the population comes back and says, yes, then we know that we need to include it. If not, perhaps not.
Just so we know how to move forward with that.
And just as a reminder, we are having we did have a site visit from AE2S. We're gonna be meeting with them by the end of the week. They're gonna present to us what the cost or what it would look like to do a facility study there again on updating the costs of, you know, refurbishing the current property or building something else or what that looks like. So they've been on site, they've done the walkthrough, we're just waiting for some estimates on that. Back to your question on the finance director, closes on the 17th.
Okay.
So we're still open on that running.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Darren. Anything else? All right, we are adjourned.